A week ago, I visited William Pierce at his mountain headquarters in rural West Virginia, where we talked in fairly straightforward fashion about his recipe for getting back the America he believes we've lost.
And basically the idea is we need a white America. Let's get rid of all the blacks. Let's get rid of all the Jews, and we will find ourselves once again. That's basically it.
That's one way, a very crude way of expressing it. I think a more fundamental idea that I expressed in the Turner Diaries is that we need to be responsible for the world around us. We need to stop being just spectators and become participants in the historical process. And if we don't like what we see in the world around us,
Get rid of it.
well, do something about it.
Well, sure, blow up the FBI headquarters.
Well, that was one of the chapters in the Turner Diaries. There was a civil war going on.
It was indeed. Not unlike the Oklahoma City bombing of a year ago. Pierce, way back in 1978, told of a fertilizer truck bomb driven by white militiamen into the underground parking garage at FBI headquarters in Washington. The result, in the book, was much the same as in Oklahoma City.
When you first saw those pictures, and you knew what you had written about the FBI headquarters being blown, and you knew when you learned that Timothy McVeigh was a devotee of the Turner Diaries, did you then say to yourself, hey, I wonder if I could have been responsible for some of that?
No, I never did, but I said to myself, I wonder what Bill Clinton and Janet Reno are thinking. I wonder if they have any sense of shame, any sense of guilt at all for having committed that massacre in Waco, which apparently is what inspired the bombing in Oklahoma City.
Take a look, it's in a book.
Read
your
books. All right. Welcome to the next episode of RYB. Today we're covering I forgot to get the picture. Oh, oversight on my part. Hold on. Let's do that. I guess I'll intro while I do that. We'll be covering William Pierce's The Turner Diaries. What I have to say is probably the oldest light novel ever written. Like in the 90s it came out, and it reads like it was written in a Japanese high school bathroom. Like many light novels are. It's just completely edgy, full of like Gary Stu bullshit, has like complete silliness on like all accounts. It just happens to also advocate for like a siege-esque ideology. It's pretty entertaining, I guess, but it's also really fucking stupid, which makes it entertaining. So
you gotta embrace the stupidity.
Yeah,
Jeff.
you kind of
Like,
do. After very quickly, you lose the book loses any serious credibility with you very quickly. Just with like how retarded it's sort of setting and action sequences, and how it thinks like this sort of theoretical revolution is going to go, and then it just kind of becomes a comedy. And for any federal agents in the audience, be assured this book is not particularly inspiring. This is a scholarly effort, and it's going to be a heavy critique of something that's pretty fucking asinine, to be honest. What were your initial impressions of it?
So when I first came across it, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool. This is okay. It's like a theoretical, possible future, and I like how it's kind of written in looking back on the diaries, and I really liked the fun little notes to the reader.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like really fun. Like he does it like 18 times or something. It's pretty funny. And another thing that I counted, they only say nigger 10 times in this book. It's not too bad.
Really? I thought it was more than that. You counted?
No, it's only
I guess
10.
you controlled F.
Yeah, I control F. And I was
Interesting.
Like, yeah.
All right.
Huh. Oh no, this book is not scholarly in the slightest. This is like a fucking 4chan post.
Yeah, basically, and that's why the guy got a 60 Minutes interview. Is what I think, is because he just makes the whole being race realist look like a complete psycho retard. And so, of course, people are like, "Oh, let's get this guy in 60 Minutes. That'll make all our enemies look fucking dumb." And
that'll be entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fucking silly. Anyways, I took notes on all the chapters. Oh, I have the wrong chat open as well. Just unprofessional stuff here. Okay, there we go. All ready to go. Scholarly wink wink. I mean, I guess. Are you reviewing edgy books now? I have been. The first episode we did was Siege, which I think is much better than this book, to be honest.
I gotta go read it.
You have to go read Siege, bro. But Siege is actually written in a way that's like not fucking retarded. Kind of like a similar message, but just not written in a retarded way. All right, so here we go. The chapter 1. It's basically a just put yourself in the mindset that you're reading a Pol Green Tech. That you're on 4chan and you open up a thread and there's just like some stupid green tech story about like Shibuns handing out estrogen patches and stuff. And this is basically the opening of the book, is that there's these black deputies rounding up everyone's guns, particularly white people's guns. It's like the start of the book is immediately. And so basically the main character, Turner, gets wound up in these gun grabbing operations and has sort of preemptively planned is part of this revolutionary organization. So like the gun grab happens, they're like, okay, now we start living underground and fighting the revolution. So they start like fighting as this guerrilla organization. So like the first action of the guerrilla organization, chapter 2, after the gun grabbing story, where these like black caricature deputies are like stealing people's guns, like the most silly, like literally that's why I compare it to light novels, is because Pierce constantly uses nothing but caricatures for his racial enemies, and it just reads like this like when you're reading a Japanese light novel and there's just like the evil slave owner
who's overly evil.
Who has like dogs that rape their slaves, and it's like, well, look at this evil guy. It's basically that, but just for all minorities in the book. So it reads almost exactly like a Japanese light novel, which I found pretty funny. But anyways, in chapter 2, after they go underground, their first action is they go to a liquor store, kill the black cashier, then they go to a deli and then kill the Jewish owner of it, just to rob some pocket change. That is their first revolutionary action.
And in the beginning, it's like super, like it's organized, but like the violence is very, it's like random and sporadic. Like they do that, they go into like 3 stores or something, and they just like kill the people inside.
Oh, it's constant random fucking violence. But I guess that's sort of he says, well, that's the point. Everything's got to break down. Who cares about innocent blood? We got a bigger goal to achieve. And it's just like the most edgelordy shit that you like read in a power fantasy novel written by a high schooler. And that's just really what it came off as, even though I know Pierce probably wrote this when he was an old man, but it sounds like some edgelord in high school. All right, so chapter 3, after they casually murder some people to get some pocket money so they can continue fighting the revolution, because they didn't have enough money to like buy food while they're like hiding away from the cops. So then they start having casual descriptions of planning terrorist attacks on the federal government. So like in chapter 3, they're meaning like, okay, let's bomb an FBI building. That's what they.
Yeah, that's right. That's where
3,
people were like, oh yeah, let's do that's the McVeigh bombings. It's your fault, Pierce. It's your fault.
Yeah.
It was weird.
I mean, that's sort of what the angle they were playing in the 60 Minutes interview, which is not really true, but I mean, it's basically exactly the same situation as the OKC bombing. Where they plan this, like planning a fucking van in the FBI building and blowing it up with bombs and shit. It's just like the edgiest, silly shit. I mean, I guess it worked, so there wasn't that much security back then. But of course, after the OKC bombing, there's much more security implemented to prevent this kind of thing. So I guess this particular instance of truck bombing in 1990 was I guess, realistic. But I mean, very quickly as things go on, it loses all credibility.
Yeah. They do some pretty Herculean tasks in this book.
Yeah.
It's just it's very over the top and over dramatic with a lot of the things that that happen.
Yeah,
in the
it
book.
just has like random, like little edgy revenge fantasies where they blow people's heads off with shotguns every like 10 pages or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I
You
don't
know, it's
remember
kinda like-
exactly the one in chapter 3, but I'm pretty sure like they just like blow somebody's head off for some reason. I forget. Like they're trying to take the moral high ground. They're like, oh, this fucking sawed off shotgun this guy's head off. He's like, oh, what a scumbag. We just blew his fucking brains out. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of justifications for killing people.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's
but
just
I mean-
so silly. I mean,
yeah, but that's what propels it forward.
yeah, you're
Because
right.
like I was laughing. All right, so I use the audiobook because I'm retarded and can't read without an audiobook. So and it's Pierce reading it. There's like a 10-hour video on YouTube of him reading it.
Yeah.
And he whenever he does voices of the characters, he does like a very generic Jewish voice.
Well, I mean,
It's
he even
like
has that's like a later part of the book where they have to fool like some diversity
Yeah.
squad
Yeah,
that
the
comes into
niggers.
their fucking establishment, and then
Yeah,
like
they're high
Turner, the main character, just like it starts affecting like a stereotypical Jewish impression. This apparently fools them. It's basically
Mhm.
another thing is basically the only reason the revolutionaries get anything done in the book is because everyone in the federal government, all police, FBI agents, and military are just like fucking retarded, and that's what
Yeah.
reminded me the most of a light novel, where the main character is just like has high school level intelligence and understanding of the world, but he just like BTFOs everyone because they're just fucking retarded.
Yeah, he
and-
kind of has like plot armor. It
Yeah.
feels, but
Yeah, not even just plot armor. It's just like these like, oh wow, mortar attacks. They never thought about that one. Like it's exactly like a fucking isekai novel. It's fucking,
yeah. I hate to compare it to like something
Why?
great,
That's what it is.
but it is what it. It's exactly what
yeah.
it is.
All right. So after they blow someone's head off, they go into the woods and they get their guns that they buried in a. So they buried their guns in a barrel in the woods to prevent them from getting taken by the cops. They go dig those up, and then they start linking up the different like organization cells. That's the most boring name ever for like an edgy organization.
Yeah,
Just say the organization and the order and shit. It's just so like you know put some if you're gonna write like this edgelord shit, put some like effort into it. You know, make the aesthetics at least funny or fun.
Yeah, make it even more
organization.
over the top.
Yeah.
You got to make it more retarded, Pierce.
Yeah. And then like this is the part where my suspension of disbelief. So chapter 4 is when it just like went out the fucking window. Is they set up their little terrorist cells, and then they get they write a dictionary in which they send little 3-number codes to each other denoting different things, and that's their communication. So they do radio broadcasts with 3-number codes denoting different things. And so if one person finds a dictionary, then it's all fucked.
Yeah, it's surprising. Like everybody,
it's like it's like Babby's first fucking cryptography shit. That would be
like,
cracked in like 4 hours if anybody got picked up with the book, and he just like skims over that. And so they're communicating in the most like retarded, basic bitch level way. And apparently not being caught by the feds. So all right, so already we're in the realm of the revolutionaries are incompetent, but the government's apparently even more incompetent.
Even more, yeah. That's really what it is. Like the government, the way he writes the system, which is what he calls the government. He writes the system as like complete fucking arrogant retards, and I highly doubt that would be anywhere near what it would be in the real world. This book is not realistic in the fucking slightest. As many times as we've said that.
All right, so I think chapter 4. Okay, what are they doing in chapter 4? Oh yeah, okay. So so he'll meet, like, because it's written in a diary sense, he'll just like be talking about events, and then he'll just talk about like a political rant about like how bad society is, because like, oh, in character this guy's ranting about the politics, which is just an excuse for Pierce to rant about things. And so in one breath in chapter 4 he's like ranting, oh well, the conservatives are complaining that our ability, us doing terrorist attacks is making them more extreme, making the government, justifying the government to be more extreme. Wow, they're a bunch of pussies. And meanwhile he's like, oh, let's go bomb these people. It just kind of, it's like I don't know, like such a fallacious argument, right? It's like trying to maintain a moral high ground while brandishing a sawed-off shotgun and blowing people's heads off. I don't see it. And I guess Pierce sort of abandons that later in the book, but not even, because like you get to the epilogue and he's like saying the same shit. Like even I don't even think he hasn't done a very good job of really cleanly establishing whatever his new morality is, besides a sort of a race obsession. And because of that, like he contradicts himself. Like he writes from the sort of moralizing position of like a liberal would write. Like I guess we'll get to it later, but he's like describing some like genocide. It's like, oh wow, look at this justified genocide. We're saving the white race. And then he's like, oh, but them Bolsheviks, the Bolsheviks, their genocide was evil. It's like, you can't like say one genocide is evil if you're saying one genocide is necessary. Just like then they're just military tactics. Like, it's so fucking asinine. But whatever. Let's continue. All right, so the terrorist cells link up with their 3-number code dictionary, which is their only coded system over like plain radio broadcast. Apparently that just doesn't get decoded, whatever. After fixing the radio for a bunch of city slickers, he then goes back to their little guerrilla base, and then there's the waifu character, Catherine, who's just like this random female who happens to be part of their terrorist organization. And they're like, oh, and then I like fell in love with Catherine. She became my waifu, and then at that moment,
woman.
Yeah.
She was the only woman in our platoon, and all the guys really wanted to get with her.
But I got with there. Me, Mr. Turner, I got. Yeah. And it like at that very moment when he's like, oh, I got my waifu from our terrorist cell, I was like, oh shit, this is like exactly like a Japanese light novel.
Yeah. Like, no, it really is.
Like the first girl in the harem has been established. I thought they would go more overboard with that later on, but they didn't. But they were close at times. They were definitely close, yeah. Especially when they introduced Elsa. All right.
That's a little later, though.
All right, so then that's when they start planning about blowing up a fucking FBI building, which is just like hilarious to see written in a book. Chapter 5, they talk about they continue like describing their plan about bombing things. And then they're like, oh, we weren't able to get enough explosives. I guess we're going to have to improvise and bomb them with less explosives than we had. And that's like the conflict for chapter 5.
Yeah. And then they end up getting the mortars or whatever, and then just fucking shoot them.
Yeah. So in chapter 6, the edgelord characters of the book all run back to the scene of their bombing. So they bomb the federal building. And then they all run back to it, just like calmly. They're just like, oh, let's just hang around the federal building. I guess the feds are like so incompetent, they're not going to like write down our face, take pictures of us or anything. We're just going to like hang around and like gawk at the giant hole that just exploded in the fucking ground. And this is like what fucking grade did William Pierce write this in? You think that like immediately after blowing something up that like there aren't going to be authorities looking around for people? They're not going to like catalog you? Like in the JFK assassination, like every civilian was cataloged in the entire surrounding area. And no matter what you think about the conspiracy, it was very quickly done, and police were very easily enabled, and that's like 30 years before this is set, able to do that. And apparently, Pierce's little terrorist organization, oh, we can just waltz around this blown up federal building. Nobody's gonna care or notice. It's fucking complete retardation.
It is like it's written by a high schooler. Yeah. But, I mean, I guess that's kind of the charm. Like it's
I
just
guess,
fucking
yeah. I mean,
dumb.
it does make it readable, just because of how silly it is.
Yeah, first fiction, you can tell. Yeah, that's true. Also, they were talking about like who Earl Turnell's supposed to like represent. It's like Pierce is supposed to be the guy who's like at the end, like talking about the epilogue and is writing the notes to the reader and stuff. Earl Turner is, as Palladian said,
he's a character, but he doesn't really have a personality. He's a self-insert. He's a Gary Stu.
Yeah.
As Palladian said, you're supposed to self-insert into Turner, which I guess Timothy McVeigh did. Well, kind of, not really. He wasn't. McVeigh wasn't really a nationalist. He was just really fucking pissed over Waco and Ruby Ridge, and then blew up some people. All right, so they blow up the federal building, and then they're just hanging around the site, and then they see some injured people and like, oh, this is so bad, and they help some injured people after blowing up the federal building, as if this is like the moral thing to do, where they should care after like causing the mayhem themselves, like and then the fucking afterwards, they leave, and then they go to like some warehouse and they get a bunch of like grenades and shit. And then there's like, just like descriptions of like, oh, grenades and mines, and look how fucking rad and cool these grenades and mines are. And and this happens many times in the book where they'll be talking about like the different weapons the little revolutionaries procure, and it just comes off like a high school boy fantasizing about weaponry, and it's the most stupid thing ever.
Yeah, and he does that multiple times too. They run into like a weapons cache in Queens later in the book.
Yeah,
and it's just like, oh yeah, they had
my God, this weapon was like so fucking rad.
Oh,
and, like
yeah,
deadly.
This was so cool. Yeah,
yeah,
it really is like a high school.
Yeah,
like, fantasizing over weapons and stuff.
And so in between this sort of like high school level power fantasy of destroying the federal government, he's like saying all liberals are just like infantile retards. They don't fucking know anything. It's just like he has like literally that sentence right next to them after them like hanging around the federal building that just blew up. And it's just like the most fucking artful self-assassination of rhetoric I've ever seen. And that's why the guy got a 60 fucking minutes interview.
Yeah. And I feel like they don't, at this point, it's just like no one cares about this book, I think.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it hasn't done really that much harm because nobody bothered to read it because of the taboo set like aspect. And like anyone who bothered to read it was probably like just mildly right wing. So all it did is really, for like anyone right wing, is like, wow, this is fucking stupid. It didn't really. It's not like this is taught in school. It's like, wow, this is what like a retarded Nazi looks like, because obviously the ideas are too crazy to teach in that sort of manner, or at least we don't have the sort of the scholarly standards anymore to teach information impartially, and so they don't do that.
Yeah,
I'm sure if they did, though, it'd be pretty effective. Like if you like raised some kids liberally in a school, and then you took this book and said, this is exactly what evil looks like. It would be extremely effective, just give out like fucking stupid this all sounds. It just, whatever. All right. Chapter 7. The terrorist group attack the Washington Post. So they go to the Washington Post, and then they throw some like grenades and shit through the window. And then they kill like a few people, and they blow up the printing press, or like one printing press. And then the next day, or the same day, an editor writes an article saying that the mean racist terrorists should be killed. And then they proceed to get in a taxi driven by a black person. They murder the taxi driver. They drive to the Washington Post editor's house, and then they just blow his head off with a shotgun. And it's just fucking bonkers.
Yeah, and every time they see like a Tom, which is, like a black who's like working for like the government, kind of, they always just immediately just shoot.
Yeah, everyone's a fucking caricature. Right. Everyone just deserves to get their fucking brains blown out. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then later in that same chapter, after what just described happens, he says, I quote, "Our biggest difficulty is that the public sees us and everything we do only through the media."
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking. No, is that your biggest problem, or is it because you're just like fucking psycho murdering everyone?
You're just going literal guerrilla warfare up in this bitch.
Yeah. All right. The main character. So then they have like a person who like cucks out. They're like, "Wow, this is like fucking retarded. Let's stop being terrorists." That's someone in their little organization says, and then they execute him. And then the Turner's like, "Oh, I felt bad about that. I didn't want to kill that man." It just reads like a fucking light novel.
Yeah.
This book sounds so fucking retarded. Turner Diaries anime when it would make a pretty good anime. It would basically just be a Kami got killed the anime, but set in America.
Yeah.
It's
like you could easily make an anime out of this shit. It's kind of stupid. Like,
yeah,
I think a movie for this would be pretty fun, but no one would ever fucking.
No one would ever produce a film or anime of this, but it would fit so well because it's just like a retarded fucking, like it's almost satirical. So,
Yeah,
but it's written completely seriously. All right, Chapter 8. The character complains about society degrading into interracial gang rape and how people are dirty rapists. So they're kind of underway in the revolution part, and so like the government's like clamping up on things, and like sort of everyone's being called racist and shit, and he's like describing how everyone in school is getting gang raped all the time. All the women are getting gang raped and shit. And then this is like a motif everywhere out the book. Everyone's getting fucking raped all the time. And then in this chapter, they're just walking down the street, going to a store or something, because that's what rebel guerrilla terrorists do. And like the 1990 technology just isn't good enough to have like he uses makeup and like prosthetics. He says, "Oh, well, we just had like really good makeup and prosthetics, so we were just able to walk around all the time. Who gives a fuck? Nobody knew our faces."
Catherine's entire character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's really good at making.
It just has like silly plot. It's like well, Catherine just like put us in some cool prosthetics that changed both of our facial structure and our voice, and they just couldn't fucking figure it out. They just got BTFO'd, epic style. And it's just like applying this like spackle to every plot hole. Is like, oh, we just had really good prosthetics, or we had like special drugs that mind wiped people that we recruited. And so we made sure they were on the level, so we couldn't be infiltrated because we had like these special drugs and shit. It's just like fucking high school level stuff.
There's a lot of conveniences.
Right. And anyways, in chapter 8, where Pierce is complaining about all the rapes and shit, they're just walking down the street, and then Catherine, his waifu, gets attacked by a swarthy Negro. Like walks up to her and just starts like doing like stereotypical Negro things, and then based white man Turner or whatever like goes up and like clocks him in the face. He's like, "Don't kill him, just kick him in the balls." And it's just like it's literally the fucking power fantasy you see in a Japanese light novel.
He pulls out his gun and is about to shoot the black man while he's like bleeding on the floor after he decked him in the face. And it's like, no, don't kill him. It really is just some stupid gay light novel anime shit.
Yeah, and it's just the same scene out of a Japanese light novel where your waifu gets accosted by some thug who's gonna like sexually impose on her, and then you beat him up, and then your waifu's like, "Wow, you're such strong man." It's like that exact scene in the fucking book. I'm like, okay,
like if nothing else. This is a good read, just if you just want some shit on your plate.
Basically,
that's it.
Yeah. And this is when I wrote. This is when I first wrote in my notes that it was a Japanese light novel, and that if you replaced like the character name, so if you said instead of the organization, it's like the Resistance. Instead of the U.S. government, it's just like the evil empire. And you
like you could put this in space.
Yeah, and if you just renamed Turner to be like Kirito, and Catherine to be Asuna, it would just fit perfectly. It's just like an edgy light novel. The only thing that makes it like interesting is the fact that it takes place in the United States and it's advocating for like revolution. Otherwise, it's literally just Gary Stu fiction.
I mean, that's basically it. Is Gary Sue fiction though?
I mean, well, yeah.
Hunter. I do want to read Hunter now.
I see, Malamua, that he wrote a better book, but still, this book's fucking retarded. All right, chapter 9. The Rebel Alliance. All right, so the president's having a speech on TV saying that we're gonna get these Nazi guerrillas. We're gonna get them. And then they have a speech on TV, and then the rebels like set up a mortar somewhere, and fucking Pierce loves himself some fucking mortars. And they set up a mortar, and they bomb the TV broadcast. And it's like, oh, we just struck like a psychological blow. Haha, we mortared them. Yeah. And then later in the chapter, this is when I was like, whoa, fuck, is the harem expanding? They go after they mortared the president's speech. Turner just runs around and finds like some street people in another situation. So he's walking down the street and he sees like a redhead girl being accosted by another swarthy Negro. What do you know? Or no, actually, I think it's Mexicans this time.
Yeah, no, I think it was.
He at least changes it up. He at least changes it up so it's not black the black. It's black.
It's a different minority.
Different minority. So the Mexicans are accosting some homeless waifu, and then Turner walks up and saves her. Like it's like yeah, and then he finds out this waifu Elsa is like a street person and street people that they might try to recruit.
Yeah, basically the revolution kind of sparked some other random groups to like appear outside of the organization, and they go and he follows Elsa to the to her hideout, which ends up being a mistake later on.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it's not that retarded because it ends up actually backfiring at some point. All right, chapter 10. Turner gets interrogated by the upper echelon of the organization, and so they give him like the special drug, and so like he forgets, like he has a conversation, forgets everything that was said, and then just falls asleep, and then wakes up, and then after he wakes up, they're like, "Wow, you really based and red pilled," and then they give him a big old book that they basically call the New Bible, or whatever the fuck. It's like a new Bible that justifies like
what is the book?
It's just Neo Bible. That's all it is. It's just the Bible that justifies murdering every non-white person on Earth. And saying how your cause is just, and we're gonna get them, and this is exactly what God would want and shit.
And this is like wasn't this his initiation into the super secret club within the organization?
Yeah,
which is also super fucking gay.
Oh my god, yeah, that. And that's exactly what I wrote. So after he reads the New Bible, which tells him that genociding all non-whites is what is correct, then he goes into a back room and he puts on a gray robe, and they all like claps their hands and hang around some candles, and they're like, okay, you're part of like the order now. The order is like the secret inner organization, and you're like you're gonna take our secret oath, be like a based white nationalist, and we're not like being occultish at all. This is just like totally based and Christ pilled, bro. And
we're also gonna give you this thing.
Here's a cyanide
that'll
necklace.
Kill you. That'll kill you.
Now we've presented you with your necklace, and whenever you're captured, you're supposed to take the cyanide in your necklace.
It's so gay. Like looking back on it, it really is so stupid.
Yes, and
it is very Freemasonic, yeah.
All right, and so they have he joins the inner cult thing, where they wear gray robes and they have like a cyanide capsule necklace that's like really important. Okay, and then chapter 11. Turner executes more blacks and white girls who are with them that he calls whores. In a light novel-esque action sequence, they just like bait the blacks are just like, oh, unga bunga, can you guys let us in so we can do some drugs? And then they open up their little hideout and like bait them in and then shoot them, and then one of them, the girl, is gonna run away, and then Turner's like, oh, I got a shooter, and my shot was like really good, and I timed it so like the truck drove by, and like the shot wasn't heard because the truck drove by right at the same time.
I also really like that scene because he shows such utter disgust because it's a bunch of black guys and a white girl, and he like looks at the white girl and he's like, "You filed your race." Like, oh, it's so fucking bad.
Disgusting.
You betrayed your race. Now you must
a fucking
die.
traitor. I guess I don't feel anything when I execute her in cold
Yeah. Oh my. It was like, I didn't even
Turner,
feel sorry
this book
for the
is
girl.
fucking gangweed in a nutshell.
Yeah, it really is. Gamers, they rose up in this book. Jesus Christ.
All right, chapter 11. The protagonist. Okay, that's what I just said. All right, so they act out a Pole Green Tech story of black protesters. Okay, so this is the next part of chapter 11. So the government is like, okay, shit, these white nationalists, they're really giving us a problem, and so we gotta like intimidate the Goyim, and so they have a march where a bunch of like black people just storm the streets, and then anyone who doesn't join in the march, that's the anti-racist march, gets beaten to death.
Gets beaten.
Yeah, so there's just like a giant conga line of thousands of black people patrolling the streets, and anyone who doesn't join the march just gets beaten to death, and then it gets televised, and they're like, "Oh, look at those dumb racists getting beaten by the based black mob," and shit. And so like, okay, I guess that's kind of a salient point. That's kind of what happened with Antifa, but the problem is whatever salient point is made by this book is shot in the fucking foot by how retarded everything else in the book is,
and the way everyth's
and that's why the guy got a fucking 60 minutes interview. It's because that it just it assassinates the ideology in the crib by being so fucking wacky.
Oh, also a little bit earlier in the book, he goes, "Oh yeah, we treat our women way better than the left treats their women." It was like that was just a little rant he went on in the middle of. I can't remember.
Yeah, Leo. Basically,
it was really funny.
Leo quoted the part later in the book where he says there's the great Houston bombings of September 11th where 4,000 people died. And so basically, Leo, Pierce is inspired by God and he has prophecy, and so he knew that September 11th would happen, and he's writing about it here. He's inspired by God. It's prophecy, okay? Just saying.
September 11th is a very important day. That's when Christ was actually born. I can't remember the
is
fucking
there like a
thing
name or
that
something?
the SDAs. It's like it was
about
like
September 11th.
Yeah,
really?
It's like special. September 11th is like a special day in like Christ or something. You can ask Leo; he knows it.
I guess I don't know. Anyways, chapter 12. The protagonist goes to Elsa's hideout and is jealous that she has a boyfriend. So Turner goes to where Elsa, the street person waifu, is hiding, and it just like looks. It says, "Huh, wow, you have a BF. I'm kind of jealous." I'm like, wow, is this really going to turn into a harem novel? Is this actually going to be a Japanese harem novel? It didn't actually, but I thought at that moment it was going to turn, but I was wrong.
Thankfully, it didn't. Like, that wouldn't have, I don't think that would have been good. Ugh.
Yeah, okay. And then after later in the chapter, they discuss how Elsa ran away from home because her libcuck parents didn't care that she was getting raped by black people in school. And then they had an argument with another girl, and they sold a girl they were having an argument with into slavery to a Jew. So they rounded up one of their street person female friends and sold her into slavery. I'm like, wow, this is exactly like a fucking Japanese light novel. It sounds exactly like something that happens.
It felt ANCAP as fuck. Like, oh yeah, this girl's causing us trouble. Let's just sell her into slavery. Look, we need some money. Here, $200. You can have this bitch. I think that's what it was. Granted, it was the 90s, so the money was worth more, but still.
Yeah. It's just like, wow, we sold her into slavery, and she got like killed by edgelord Jew sex Satanists. And like,
oh yeah, and he talks about that.
Yeah,
the Jew Satan pedophile shit. Like, oh yeah.
Oh, Sean Ruby's complaining that I'm not taking it seriously, but the book's really fucking stupid. I'll get to the end goal and the sort of analysis at the end of the book. We're only at chapter 12 or so. We have, I think, 17 or 20. So. Yeah, 17 more chapters to go. Just hold on to your horses, all right?
We're going pretty fast.
If you want to answer now, just let you know that if your goal is a white ethnostate, this book is fucking retarded and should not have been published.
Definitely not.
Yes.
If you have, it's more just for entertainment. Like, it's goofy. That's really what it is.
Yeah. $200 is still too low. Or white nationalists must suck at bartering. Well, no, it wasn't the white nationalists that sold the other girl into slavery. It was the street people. So there's like the street people who are like living in degenerate society, and they sell a girl into slavery. Like the description of the Jewish slaver, I forget the name. It was like something really cartoonish. You remember?
Yeah, I don't remember. It was some really kikey name. It was very over the top.
Oh, Cappy the Kike.
Yep, that's right, Cappy the Kike.
So they sold a girl into slavery to Cappy the Kike, who then sells the person they receive into slavery into Satanists and shit. It's like literally out of fucking A Kami Got Kill. Like that's literally the same plot point that would appear in A Kami Got Kill.
It's so stupid.
It wasn't meant to be a book. It doesn't matter. If you write this shit, you should have it like read by someone with like a brain cell and say, "Oh, we shouldn't publish this." Like that's all that had to happen. But unfortunately, it somehow found its way into publishers' hands. I don't know how. All right. Let's see. All right. So chapter 12 done. So I kind of combined the notes for chapter 13 and 14. So just like in a Japanese light novel, the feds eventually find and attack them. So there's only 4 people in their little base. And and he describes an army of 100 policemen and army men are outside, and they have like spotlights on us, and they're shooting. And apparently these 4 people have enough time before their place is stormed to just like run down to the sewers and ferry like a bunch of ammunition and communications equipment over like 50 minutes as like only Turner is standing there at like the exit of the sewer and like holding off 100 policemen with his brave fucking fighting. Like it's so Gary Stu.
Yeah, it really is. But I mean, at least he does the stupid voices and
Oh, you listened to the audiobook? I just read it.
Yeah, it was so fucking worth it. Like his Pierce's Kike voice is fucking hilarious. Like if you want to read this, have a reason to read this book. It's Pierce in his dumb fucking voice. I love it.
It probably makes it even more comedic.
It is. He's got a lisp and shit. It's hilarious.
All right, so chapter 13, Turner apparently relates that a bombing killed around 4,000 people in Houston on September 11th. I'm like, whoa, man, this guy's like inspired by prophecy and shit. Shark. Turner is then all right. So after the Fed raid, he gets captured. So he's not like a total Gary Stu. He gets captured and tortured. But actually, that does happen in edgelord Japanese light novels quite often. Is that the protagonist will get like tortured and like blackpilled, and he'll become a stronger edgelord because of it in a Japanese light novel. So I wasn't surprised by this. We're still on plot.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets captured, and then like a Mossad interrogator, who's like the most caricature of caricature. Just like God. He's just like licking his lips.
Jewish doctor.
Yeah. So evil Jewish doctor is just like licking his lips, like, I'm gonna break you like I break those Nazis in 45. Hey, goyim, ah.
That's actually a line too.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says. And then Turner gets sodomized and tortured, and they find out all this information about the guerrillas. And then so then time passes, and he gets put in jail, and then they eventually get broken out. And then after he's broken out, Turner's put before the gay order. So the order of like people wearing like robes who are like LARPing, and they're totally not Masonic. Okay, dude?
No, not at all.
They're totally not Masonic.
Real quick.
Yeah.
The sodomized thing, they actually describe it in full about how he gets tortured, and they stick like a rod up his ass. It's pretty bad. The Sodom Diaries, yeah, it's pretty. Yeah. Really dead. All right, sorry. You can continue.
All right. So after Turner returns, basically the Order cult is like, well, you didn't kill yourself, so I guess you're not really based in Red Pill. So we're not going to really put you. You're on a probationary period for a bit longer, and if you really want to join our Order, we're going to send you on a suicide mission. All right, and you can, if you're really good, maybe you'll be able to solve the suicide mission without dying. But if you complete the suicide mission, we'll posthumously make you like an Order member. You get to be part of our gay Order. Yeah. And Turner's like, okay, yeah, cool. I got a suicide mission now. Haha.
You'll be immortalized.
Yeah.
And
what if it's like the most LARPy shit ever?
It really is. But I mean, it's perfect for people like Joaquin. Like he probably loves this book, unironically.
Yeah. Sean Ruby, the fucking what do we call it? The Jewish interrogator shoves the rod up the guy's ass, of Turner's ass. And that's like described as the torture method. So he gets literally sodomized. Which, I mean, I guess that is a valid method of torture, probably.
Oh,
it's kind of oddly specific.
And when the Jewish doctor is like, "Oh yeah, I tortured Adolf Eichmann, yeah, Adolf Eichmann," and then the author goes on a tangent and is like, "Ethan, this Adolf Eichmann was this guy." It was funny. I love the little out of context notes to the reader.
Yeah,
it's funny.
All right. So now chapter 14. This is after Turner is broken out and he gets a suicide mission. He's like, okay, now I'm going to be a base suicide bomber. Or whatever. The head of the organization, the people in the robes and stuff, they're like, maybe this random terrorism against random targets isn't really working. We should probably target economic centers of food production. So this is like 14 chapters into the book for the guerrillas to change their strategy to actually start doing something. And they're like, I guess we're going to target something else now. This was like, okay. All right. Chapter 15, the protagonists rob some watches from a warehouse for bomb making, and then they counterfeit US dollars. So they start solving their organization issues by like counterfeiting US dollars. And then they complain that Mossad and the Mafia are assassinating their men. So like Israel has sent Mossad and the Mafia as like a team to like start killing all the people in the Nazi organization.
Yeah, they were like sending out hitmen and to disturb the organization, and they were also. I also liked the I think it was around this point where they start going into the tangent about how they have to do the vetting with the people who join the organization because they were like double agents like joining. Just to get information and stuff out of the organization from the system. And I liked how it had, like, proper vetting measures.
Well, I mean, it's fucking...
But it's super LARPy.
It's Deus Ex Machina vetting measures where they just have, like, a magical drug that wipes your memory and puts you to sleep so they can kill you if you fucked up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's just like the fucking prosthetics. It's just a catch-all that fixes everything. And I'm not even I'm still just describing what happened in the book. I'm not even like really critiquing the fact that like an attack helicopter would have killed like all of these people. Like like nowhere in the book is it mentioned that there's like an attack helicopter that just like looks out for them. And they like have their vehicles tracked or anything like that, and they just people are getting blown up all the time. No, never is that mentioned.
And it only gets worse from some point forward, like when you think that they have an entire like military thing, the excuse that they. Sorry, go ahead. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, sure, I guess. All right. Chapter 16.
Talking about when California happens.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right. Chapter 16. The counterfeiting continues, and then the protagonist turns away the anti-racism squad by impersonating a Jewish business owner. We talked about this earlier, but yeah. So literally the great subterfuge that they engage in is like doing the stupid Joaquin Jew voice. Is how they trick the fucking SJW squad or something.
So basically, the scene is they go into the evil like SJW system people go into his Turner's store, and like one of the ladies gets mad because at the guys and almost gives away their position, so he has to LARP as a Jew in order to get the fucking SJWs out of his fucking hair. It was weird.
All right,
it was funny.
And so then later in that chapter, they plan to take down a nuclear power plant by sneaking in a dirty bomb the size of a cane. And then in the next chapter, they realize this is fucking retarded and that plan would never work. Not for the reasons. They just thought, for some reason, Turner comes up, we could like smuggle a cane-sized dirty bomb. Like physically, a cane-sized dirty bomb would not actually pollute an entire area. So it would be pretty pointless. All right, chapter 17. They mortar. They love their fucking mortars. They mortar the Israeli embassy meeting, and then after they mortar the Israeli embassy meeting, a Jew guard runs out of the embassy and just like guns down like 9 innocent goyim on the street. And this is like recorded by the TV.
Yeah, and that was supposed to like shake the public's image of the system, and they don't have control it or whatever. And he even like screams, "All goyim must die for the cause!" Like he goes fucking nuts. This Jew. It's weird. Like what was the point of
mad.
that?
Well, no, the Jew's mad that like the fucking
the embassy got bombed.
Says, "Oh, you dirty goyim! How dare you do this? I shoot you now." It's just like the most evil caricature shit straight out of a Japanese light novel.
Yeah. it's kid dumb.
All right. So then after that, they say, okay, well, making a cane-sized dirty bomb to try and contaminate a nuclear power plant, that's kind of retarded. So instead, we're going to put nuclear material into mortars. Nothing but fucking mortars. Mortars is like the is like the crop
mortars
rotation.
Is the go-to.
Mortars is the crop rotation for Pierce. Just like crop rotation is like the isekai go-to. Pierce is like, you know what would be good here? Mortars. And so he says, okay, so we're gonna shoot some dirty mortar bombs at the power plant, and that'll like cut out the power for like most of the U.S. Haha. And then later in the chapter, after making this plan, the protagonist goes to a weapon depot, and then they're apparently paying black soldiers to smuggle weapons off base. Is like their whole thing. Like, we'll just pay the blacks to do it, and they'll just do it.
Yeah, there's so much corruption, and the quote unquote the blacks have no fucking morals at all in this story. It's pretty great.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like got a little bit of truth to it, but you know.
I think it goes way too overboard on like every aspect. All right, so then the protagonist is like in the weapons depot of all these weapons they've like stolen from the military, and he's like, whoa, look at like these flamethrowers and fucking new mortars. Like literally, he sees like a newer like model of mortar. He's like, oh my god, those mortars, they're fucking cool. Like he says that in the book.
Third time he does this too.
Yes.
He fucking loves his weapons.
He loves himself some fucking mortars, bro.
Oh yeah, mortars, the best.
All right, and then after that, all right, that's chapter 17. Chapter 18, Turner trains a bunch of people how to make bombs and shit, and then one of they're trying to smuggle explosives out of a construction site, and then one of the organization members gets found out, so he gets like killed by police, and then Turner's like, whoa, that's like not cool, bro. And so they go to the police sheriff's house and like slit his wife's throat and kill him. It's just like the most edgelordy revenge nonsense you'd find in a light novel. Whoa, they killed one of us, so we gotta like edgelord them up, brah. It's just crazy, man. All right, and that's like all I really got out of chapter 18. It was just like oozing power fantasy revenge.
I did like how he was teaching a class on how to make bombs. I did kind of find that like that was just funny. That was just like what is this? What am I fucking reading? Like this has gone off the deep end. And then it only gets more crazy.
Oh yeah.
Because they liberate.
Yeah, we'll get to
did they liberate it yet?
No.
I thought that already happened.
Almost.
Okay, whatever.
All right, so after that, in chapter 19, Turner is sent to the West Coast, and he starts boasting about how inefficient the system is at tracking them down because the people in it are demoralized, except for the Jews. And this is just like no, that's not how it works. Like, if the fucking revolution happened as described, it wouldn't have happened like this. They would have all been executed within like two weeks because of how fucking incompetent they are.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's Gary Stu light novel shit where everyone except the protagonist and his like friends are just retarded. All right. So Turner gets sent to the West Coast, and then once they get there, they find out that the whole plan was, all right, so you're gonna go into L.A., we're gonna destroy the infrastructure of L.A., we're gonna take over the nearest nuclear silo at Vandenberg, and then we're gonna have a mad situation where we say, oh, we're gonna nuke you if you don't leave L.A. alone. And so they take over L.A., which I mean, they describe how they do that. I guess how they do it is through a military coup. They've been like recruiting people within the military for a long time, and then they stage a coup and they pit like the black soldiers versus the white soldiers and shit, and that like causes all the military to become paralyzed in fear, and people are just like killing each other and shit, and then they subvert the military and kill LAPD. It's all very nebulous and it seems very wishful thinking. But I guess
a lot of things go right in that instance. Like way too many things, and it happens almost like entirely off screen.
Well, yeah, in a couple sentences. In a couple sentences, a successful military coup, and then like half of the military in the LA area suddenly like, oh, yeah, I guess we're like white nationalists now. All right,
I guess we're working for this group now.
I guess this is who we're working for.
And now we hold the nuke hostage and threaten to bomb Israel and the Pentagon. Hell yeah. Or New York City, sorry.
So they threaten to bomb Israel and New York City. And that's their plan. So they don't attack us or we're going to bomb these places. Haha. All right. And then after they take over LA, like all the infrastructure is dead. And so like basically millions of people in LA start starving to death and like killing each other and shit. All right. In Chapter 21, the revolutionaries take over Vandenberg nuke silo. They cause unrest in the military that paralyzes the government. And then after taking Southern California, they start busing all black and brown people out of the territory. So deporting, forcible deportation. That's their whole plan. And then in complete edgelord light novel fashion, Turner's like, oh, well, after when we were cleaning up the neighborhoods of brown people and putting them on the semi-trucks and shit, there was like these slaughterhouses where the blacks were like kidnapping white people and then like slaughtering them and eating them like cannibals. Whoa, what are those savages?
Yeah, what was that? Why did he put that in?
Why that? Because you gotta make the enemy look edgy, bro.
Yeah,
you gotta make it's just like a Japanese light novel. Like in order to make the reader invested, you got to have the enemy be like these super edgelord evil people that then justifies like the edgy revenge killing nonsense. It's basically a Kami ga Kill.
Yeah, it's the white nationalist not manga, light novel. That's what this is.
All right, and then all right, so that's Chapter 21. Chapter 22, the revolutionaries round up anybody who is not purely white by their standards, and then they just kill them. They just fucking kill them. And the reason is purely because it would confuse people. That's the reason. because having mixed race people or Jews would be confusing. So we're just gonna fucking kill them.
That was the purity spiral chapter.
That was the purity spiral.
And then it gets worse because the next chapter is Day of the Rope, or was it next chapter?
Yeah, next chapter.
Woo!
All right, so then
right.
After they kill all these people, then whites from abroad the country, because the rest of the country is like going to shit because of all the nonsense going on, and then they all like flee to California. They're like, oh, I want to join the ethno state. Oh, I guess that would probably happen, but this ethno state would not have happened because the revolutionaries leading it are incompetent retards, and they all would have been killed. So
if you didn't know anything, would you go to California liberated?
If this actually occurred, well, I mean, but then I don't know, because like this just isn't real life.
It's not. It's very not real life. You can't really, yeah.
It's just not a realistic revolution, and so I can't even conceive of a situation that could happen that would actually preclude. But I mean, I guess if there was separatist movements in the United States and like it peacefully broke up or whatever, you could just move to a different state. Yeah, probably. Okay. I wouldn't like live in the federal United States if I could avoid it. But I mean, that's like besides the point. There's nothing to do with Turner's book.
I was just curious.
Yeah. All right, so chapter 22, or chapter 23, is the famous Day of the Ropes. This is like the whole meme that gets fucking talked about from the book, like the meme that gets posted, and people like misattribute the meme. Leo talked about this earlier, how everyone gets the meme wrong now. So it means that so anyone who race mixed gets hung, and then anyone who supported liberal race policy gets hung. And so they just go around and hang everybody, and they put them on a list and hang them.
And they put a sign on their.
And they put a sign on them. So people who race mix get a sign that says "I defiled my race," and then people who supported the libcuck policy get a sign on them that says "I betrayed my race," and they get hung everywhere, all in one day. And this is the whole Day of the Rope. So there's no brown or black people are hung, although they are killed. So like if they find any non-white people while they're doing the Day of the Rope, they just kill them, but they don't hang them because that's not the point.
Are you ready for an edgy quote? Can I do an edgy quote?
Sure, do an edgy quote.
This is really funny. So this is a quote from the book. The first thing I saw in the moonlight was the placard and legend in large block letters, "I defiled my race." Above the placard leered a horribly bloated, purplish face of a young woman, her eyes wide open and bulging, her mouth agape. Finally, I could make out the thin vertical line of rope disappearing into the branches above. Apparently, the rope had slipped for a bit, or the branch that it was tied to was sagged until the woman's feet were resting on the pavement, giving an uncanny appearance of the corpse standing upright on its own volition. Like, it's so fucking edgy and so LARPy.
Yeah.
So funny. Like, oh, it's great.
Yeah, it's just like a fucking edgy light novel. Or just like every and then anyone who is found in a mixed race community is hung, any white person. So it's all white people getting hung. And then later in the chapter, Turner's like, "Oh well, we fucked up, and so some innocent people are gonna get hung, and then some people who deserve to get hung and get spared." But that's not really the point. The point is optics, Goy. The point is that we're gonna intimidate every other white person in our little ethno state. Go along with us, because otherwise you don't want to get hung. And so that's the whole point. So it's all just an optics cuck ploy. That's the whole point of Day Rope. It has nothing to do with like morality. It's just optics cuck strategy in Turner's like fantasy world. This book is basically a therapeutic LARP. Yeah, but write it, but don't publish it, please. It's just fucking grotesque.
He's fucking Pierce was a Chunibyo till he died.
Yeah, it's literally just fucking Chunibyo.
So funny. All right, sorry.
All right,
go ahead.
All right, let's see. All right, chapter 24. NorCal is being run by a conservative military general who's having trouble maintaining order, and he's like, the NorCal military general's like, "Oh, we're gonna have a different country, but we're gonna be like new constitutionalists," and then fucking Turner's like, "Oh, wow, you're kind of retarded. You're just going to have the same problems all over again." And then that's just sort of like a
And then they kill him.
Oh, yeah, and then they kill him.
And it was like, in a page, he fucking is introduced.
And then we killed...
Fucking falls over. Yeah, and then we fucking assassinated that bitch. It was so dumb.
We kill him, and then we take over. Haha. And then... After that, Turner finally gets a suicide mission. So he goes to the gay little order, and they're like, "Okay, your suicide mission is to plant nuclear bombs in Washington, D.C. as an insurance policy in case the government blow up our missile silos."
Oh, well, yeah, it was it D.C.? I thought that was the city and a bunch of other states, like just everywhere, that one.
Well, specifically D.C. for Turner's mission.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. I mean, what happens is kind of confusing, but we'll get to it in a second. So
yeah.
And then it's just sort of a side note I wrote. Funnily enough, the ethno-state is forced to engage in a Samson option to retain its existence. So it's engaging in the same thing that that exactly people complain about Israel about the Samson option. We're gonna nuke New York and Tel Aviv if you don't leave us alone.
I mean, I guess there's no other way for them to do it, though.
I mean, that's just geopolitics in a nutshell, though.
Yeah.
Turner and crew are trying to deliver nukes to cities in America, and they hear that Miami and some other city in Florida gets nuked. And then their organization gives the government an ethno-state ultimatum. They're saying, okay, government, you better not blow us up, but we're going to kill you anyways. It's like the most retarded ultimatum I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. The ultimatum is like full on pants fucking on head retarded. So the ultimatum says, okay, government, you better cease hostilities or we'll bomb you. But we're going to bomb you anyways. Like, that's literally what it says. It says, our eventual long-term goal is just to destroy you, so it doesn't matter. Like, this ultimatum is completely meaningless. But you shouldn't bomb us.
But don't bomb us anyway.
Don't bomb us now.
And they fall for it.
They fall for it.
Idiots.
Yeah. The 20 IQ government that kind of came straight out of a Japanese high school light novel fall for it.
Evil organization TM.
Yeah. All right, so the ultimatum's fucking retarded. And like the second they received the ultimatum, nukes would have like flattened California into the dust. But we'll just ignore that. Okay. So according to the story, the threat of nukes paralyzes the government. So like, oh, we can't do anything because we might get nuked. All right, and then chapter 26. While completing the mission of laying the nukes, his waifu Catherine is killed by soldiers. And then the Soviets bomb the U.S. population centers because the ethno-state in California launches a nuke at Soviet Russia. They launch a nuke at Soviet Russia, and this is like, oh, well, Soviets are like, oh, I guess we got to nuke all of America now. They're not just like, oh, we shouldn't probably nuke the rebel state that is nuking us. No, they nuke all of America, and then Pentagon's, oh, I guess we got to nuke Russia now. And so it's just like
20 IQ Russia.
40 IQ Russia. Like, they have no intelligence, fucking surveillance.
Oh, who bombed us? America!
I guess that came from California. It must be the United States government. I guess we got to nuke all of them.
It's so goofy.
Yeah, it's so fucking retarded.
That's kind of why I wanted us to read this book. It's so funny to just talk about.
Yeah. All right.
Keep going.
All right. So their whole spiel is how they bring the government to their knees is they trick Russia into nuking all of the U.S. So Russia just like nukes Baltimore. It nukes like New York. New York gets nuked by them. So they successfully nuked New York with like hidden bombs. And then Russia like bombs like all the other major cities. Like millions of people die. And they just don't even care about that. They're like, oh, yeah, radiation, whatever. Yeah, millions dead, just like 20%. We're good. And it's just like, okay.
Yeah, California was nuked as well, I believe.
Well, no, California was nuked, but they knew it was coming, so they were prepared, and like nobody died.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Which also kind of makes no sense.
Because, all the infrastructure would be dead, and then they wouldn't have any food, and they'd all just die.
Yeah.
But okay.
And radiation poisoning,
Yeah. California got nuked in return by the U.S. government. But they were just, like, too smart. The Keikaku was too far ahead. It was all part of the Keikaku.
Underground the whole time.
And they just, like, went underground. Like, they had all the nuclear shelters available and prepared, and they just... Like, U.S. government, you nuke us? Guess it doesn't matter. Like radiation, like, what's that? All right. So during this chapter, after the nukes fly, there's like a Jewish caricature on TV, which is like the most the most caricature of caricatures. Starts like kvetching and saying, "Oh, the Goyim tried to kill us this time, but." We just nuked the Goyim in California out of existence, Goy. We gotta kill all the whiteys, Goy. and like literally that's what the speech is, and and it like just reads like a light novel, like the Jewish caricature font that he had defeated the ethno-state by destroying it with nukes, but really they were hiding in bunkers, and he didn't know that. So he just got BTFO'd, epic style.
God.
Yeah, okay.
Cutie BO looking ass.
Yeah, alright. So the organization launches its nukes at the Soviet Union, blah, blah, blah. Alright. So the only thing left then is the Pentagon. So the old U.S. Zionist government's dead, but then there's the old military, and the old military like, fuck these ethno-state retards. We just want to have a military junta. And so the old military, working from the Pentagon, is trying to invade Southern California and destroy the ethno-state. Alright, so...
They mention nuclear subs.
Yeah. Don't worry about it, Goy. All right, so the crew go to nuked Baltimore, and then they kill all the non-whites, and they establish another tiny ethno-state in Baltimore somehow. Like, who fucking knows? Like they just did
it was
that.
like another liberated
They
area.
did it like in 2 days.
New York. Yeah, it was fucking nuts.
And they just like as like a side, a couple sentences on the side, they're like, oh, we just like killed like 200 Iranians or something. There's like too many Iranians and shit. We just murdered them all.
Yeah, where was
it's like
that?
GTA
like,
or something.
Yeah, it was like there were too many Iranians in this area, so we needed to get rid of them.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so as they make their Baltimore ethno-state, Turner's like, how nobody's innocent. Everybody who's complicit in the government's basically a race traitor, and these all deserve to die. So we're all really on the moral high ground here. They're all like culpable, and they all deserve to die. Haha. Like the most Chunibyo shit.
It's great.
All right. And so then the military junta from the Pentagon moved to destroy the ethno-state. In Chapter 28, Turner finally gets his suicide mission. So the Pentagon's like defended by all these anti-aircraft guns and like these soldiers and like all the military's defending the Pentagon. But Turner's like, I know what I'll do. I'm gonna put a nuke in a crop duster. I'm gonna fly into the Pentagon. That'll work. So that's his final mission. He puts a nuke in a crop duster and just flies it into the Pentagon. It just works. It just works. Todd Howard.
Yeah, Todd Howard. Yeah,
it just works. And then in his final rant, Turner is insulting churchgoers, materialists, and Masons. And then in the next sentence, the very next sentence, he's like, the order. In their nice white robes, they're so based and red-pilled, and they're like so cool in their robes and shit. I want to be.
And then he gives a Masonic speech.
And he gives a Masonic speech about the ethno-state
order. About how he's gonna give his life for the fucking order. I'm actually gonna look this up. Hold on, I have this right in front of me. All right, let me get this. Keep going. Hold on.
Right. Well, I mean, the next part's the epilogue, so I'll just fill air while you get the quote.
Okay.
White robes. Well, no. Not white robes, mama. Gray robes, okay? Gray. So they're not the KKK. They're like more based Masonic KKK or something. Fucking.
Okay. I got it. It's right at the end. Brothers, 2 years ago when I entered your ranks for the first time, I consecrated my life to our order and to the purpose it exists. But then I faltered in fulfillment of my obligation to you. Now, I am ready to meet my obligation fully. I offer you my life. Do you accept it? This is him talking to like an audience.
All right, and then here's the sentence beforehand.
Here's
the sentence beforehand.
Oh, yeah.
There were no soft-bellied conservative businessmen assembled for some Masonic mumbo-dumbo. No loudmouthed, beery rednecks letting on little ritualized steam about the goddamn niggers, or no pious, frightened churchgoers whining for the guidance and protection of an anthropomorphic deity. These were real men, white men who were now with me in spirit and consciousness, as well as in blood. And then he talks about, like, as the torchlight flickered over the coarse gray robes of the motionless throng, I thought to myself, these men are the best. The order, I give it my life for the new era. It's so fucking retarded.
It's the most LARPy shit ever, and
yeah,
if you take this seriously, it's pretty funny.
And that's why the guy got a fucking 60 Minutes interview, because his book just makes him look like a fucking nonce.
goofball.
Yeah, all right.
And it's like, yeah, sure,
So,
whatever. Come on our show, have fun.
It just keeps going. So the epilogue just gets even worse. All right.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
So in the epilogue, to be admitted to the ethno state, you had to go to a genetic screening site. So you go in and they say, okay, you're white, and then they put a mark on your forehead and say, okay, and then they give you like a knife and say, okay, you got to go behead a non-white, and you got to take that non-white head and bring it back. Then you get admitted into the ethno state. It's like
that's no exaggeration. That's
not exaggerating.
Straight from the fucking book.
Straight from the fucking book.
Like, I had to cover my face when he was saying that. Oh, it's so embarrassing to just fucking listen to.
Like a fucking edgy 13-year-old wrote this. All right. And then... All right. Okay. So then, in the next part of that, they're like, okay, so the organization's killing everyone else. And then, but the Jews got back at us. They organized a mass killing of their own. And it's just like the mass killings of the Bolsheviks, those evil genociders. And then, like, Pierce, are you on fucking drugs? You can't say that be pro-genocide one sentence and anti-genocide the next sentence. But okay,
hey,
Mr. Pierce.
Some genocides are okay. If there was a genocide of the kikes, everybody would be happy.
That's... And then they just nuke and chemically they use chemical weapons, nukes, and biological weapons to kill all Asians.
And so then, oh my god!
And then all of Earth is nothing but white people. Then,
and basically he eradicates every other race, and it's only white.
And then the book is like the end.
And in 1990, we took over Europe, and that's it. That's the end. It was like, okay.
I don't care if you didn't think it through. Don't fucking publish it, you fucking blithering retard. Holy shit. Oh my god. Like, this is...
Oh, and he also goes a little bit earlier, maybe on like chapter 23 or 4 or 5. He's like, we have to kill some of our own people because they betrayed us or whatever. And it's like, just killing anyone is okay if it's in the right means, you know? It's like a 13-year-old.
Yeah. And it's not like they even have like a code. It's just like, does it feel right to kill this guy? Is this like helping towards our like ethno state goal? I guess we're gonna fucking kill him.
Let's kill him. Mortars, baby.
Just mortar him, bro. Yeah, it's complete fucking retardation.
Yeah, reading this book while like on drugs is hilarious.
You were on drugs.
I was just laughing. Yeah, I was laughing the entire fucking time. It was so funny.
Yeah, it's just kind of fucking retarded. And
yeah, it's very retarded.
And I know for a fact that McVeigh was not inspired by this book at all, because
if he was, that's kind of embarrassing.
That is embarrassing.
I'll be kind of real. Like, but I mean, I still think it's a fun read.
I guess it's a fun read, and if you read it with the lens of like comparing it to an average self-insert chunibyo Japanese light novel, like I'm almost tempted. I'm probably not going to do this, but like as a project, just replace all the names in the book. Replace like the system in the U.S. with like random Japanese names, and make Turner into Kirito, and Catherine into Asuna, and it would just like read like a Japanese light novel.
I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
It like the way it's written, pretty funny. It really is like very.
I should do that.
It's very Japanese.
And retitle it the Kirito Diaries.
The Kirito Diaries.
And
Turner Diaries.
All the text is exactly the same, except for all the adjectives and nouns are changed. Just be like random.
And the races are like super fantasy.
The races are like beastkin and like goblins and shit.
Yeah, like the goblin genocide. Yeah.
Don't look at Pierce on the Turner Diaries. Book really turned me off after I read Fame of Dead Man's Deeds. According to you liked them, but more. I mean, sure, I guess, but has Pierce like said this book was retarded, or is he just sort of like I don't know?
Well, I don't know. I think he was proud of it. Like the way it was. I don't know. Seemed like it kind of was. I want to know what Hunter's about, though. Like, I want to read that. But that's for later.
Yeah. Basically, this book was poorly conceived. At no point was it realistic. Like basically, you could go to chapter 1 through 20, insert an attack helicopter at any point, and the resistance is just BTFO. Like, the Pierce is just like, oh, the attack helicopters don't exist.
Military technology is not that far ahead. The best we got, it's mortars. But yeah,
you don't think it was good for its time? No, it's fucking retarded. It helps basically paint anybody who is like mildly like ethnically aware as a psycho retard.
Yeah,
This book did more harm than like any enemy could have done.
Yeah. I'm sure that some leftist has used this, and it's like,
yeah. Why do you think the New York Times
excuse.
reviewed it, Sean? It's because it's the perfect caricature of retard racists.
It's like, oh yeah, hey, look at these guys. They're fucking nuts. They're talking about killing all the time, and it's written like a fan fiction.
Can you all read the New York Times review? Okay.
You know, that's a good idea. Go for it.
Pull it up. Turner Diaries. But yeah, basically anybody who's offended at or is against mildly far right wing politics would be like, wow, this book's perfect for caricaturing the enemy and making them look completely fucking retarded and psychopathic.
Overgeneralizing, blah blah blah.
Yeah, all right. Turner Diaries, New York Times. Behind the book that inspired McVeigh. It doesn't even have it in the title. Because you don't want to spread it around, I guess.
All right. Yes.
It's been 23 years since the man William Pierce, using the pseudonym Andrew McDonald, wrote The Turner Diaries, a novel that described the bombing of the FBI headquarters with a homemade truck bomb. The book became a classic among white supremacists and anti-government groups. Excerpts from the novel were found in McVeigh's getaway car. Dr. Pierce runs National Alliance, a neo-Nazi publishing music company from a dusty metal building on 395 acres near Mill Point, Virginia. West Virginia. In an interview several weeks before McVeigh's scheduled execution, Pierce praised McVeigh as a man of principle, willing to accept the consequences for what he did. But Mr. Pierce said he wouldn't have chosen to do what he did. Pierce, who has a PhD in physics, said that although some of the members became frightened and quit after the Oakland bombing, new ones joined. Probably on the whole, it was helpful. Since 1998, when the ADL called the National Alliance the single most dangerous organized hate group in America, its membership has doubled 2,000. Overall, Mr. Potok's organization, other experts have found the anti-government paramilitary groups that were catapulted to the public spotlight by the Oklahoma City bombing are fragmented and dwindling in membership. A survey by the Law Center last month found that the number of what is patriot organizations included paramilitary groups declined for the fourth straight year. The number of such groups peaked at 858 in 1996, year after the bombing.
Jeff, put it up on screen.
Well, I've just finished it. It's done.
Okay. Yeah, it is kind of short.
Yeah, I don't think they actually reviewed the content of the book. They're just commenting on
it. Okay.
Which I mean, I guess, yeah. So no one really read the book, just because it was like how of extreme it was. They probably just put it down and discussed. But it's just kind of stupid.
The Amazon reviews for this book are actually surprisingly positive. It's got like a 4.2 or something.
It's got a 4.2? What?
Yeah, it's like, or maybe it was like a 4.2 or 3.7, something around there. I can't remember. Here, let me look it up. Let me go on Amazon.
All right.
Because I was just curious. I was like, I wonder what the Amazon scores are like.
All right, some other article. Oh, this is the one I read is in 2001. I guess there's an interview. Let me grab that chat.
Okay.
Did it post? All right.
3.7. I was right. 41% 5-star. Huh.
All right, so there actually is a review by the New York Times. Or wait.
This.
Before it happened in Oklahoma City, a book. All right. But before it happened in Oklahoma City, it happened in a book called The Turner Diaries, an explicitly racist and anti-Semitic work of political fiction that federal officials have called the Bible of the extremist right. Yeah, of course. So the feds love this book. This is like the feds' favorite book.
Yeah.
No one knows whether the assailants in Oklahoma City have read the book. Turner Diaries is probably the most single widely read book among far-right extremists. Well, I can see how it would appeal to like edgy, like LARPer retards. Like it's written like a Japanese light novel, and those are extremely
The walking.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure most people don't even know about this book. Yeah, not anymore.
And maybe that's for the best.
Maybe, yeah, I think it's for the best. They get out of it a notion how they've achieved They get out of it a notion of how to achieve what they've sought all along, how to conduct an American revolution, how to overthrow the government. By almost any standard, Turner Diaries is a chilling read, laced with venomous anti-Semitic, anti-black stereotypes, compulsively violent, portrays an apocalyptic revolt of whites who unite in a group called the Organization after the government takes away all the guns in civilian hands. First published in 1978. Distributed by extremist groups. All right, book's heroes begin what's called socially conscious murder, beatings, and larceny. Attacks on Jewish-owned stores. Soon they move on to the car bomb, destroys a federal building. Day of the rope, where everyone's hung.
The day of the rope was, I think that was probably one of the funnier
things. Yeah, it was kind of silly.
It's like, come on.
And then everyone LARPs about it, and they think that means like they're gonna hang like every non-white person, but it's all about race traitors.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny.
Race mix. He fucking hates the race mixers, dude.
Yeah.
Like, here, wait. I got another quote. Fuck, I closed my stupid thing out. Hold on. Left one fame. All right.
Yeah, basically, it's just reiterating that the book is like crazy and anti-Semitic and racist. But I mean, it's not even a good counter argument. It just says like it's racist. Instead, they should have just demolished how like nothing in it makes any fucking sense militarily or tactically or realistically speaking. Because nothing actually makes any fucking sense in this book. Like the ability of the police to track them, their cryptography, the capability of the military to shut them down or track them between vehicles or time. Like, it's all nonsensical. It's supposed to be mythical, not a literal instruction book, but it's just poorly written. It's just poorly conceived. Like, it's not realistic in any way. Like, he did not examine the technology of the time or like the government's capabilities or what would actually occur in this theoretical, mythical situation. And it basically, it reads like a Japanese light novel because he has to make all these stupid, like, literal fucking retarded plot leaps. Like, oh, my prosthetics.
There's a lot of stipulations.
My prosthetics that are, like, perfect and hide my identity. And my mind wipe interrogation technique that lets us recruit perfectly.
And like, the military coup that happens in two sentences.
The military coup that happens in 2 sentences. And there's no attack helicopters in the police, and we can just like waltz back into the federal building that we bombed, and nobody's gonna give a fuck, and like nobody's gonna remember our faces or care that we're just like hanging around. Oh.
We took our disguises off behind our truck and then approached the site. Like, why? Why you're so stupid? Also, during the day of the rope, it talks about this this actress who was a notorious race mixers and was in a lot of porn or whatever, and they she's completely bruised up and bloodied and disgusting.
Yeah, it's just fucking the fantasy book basically.
It's just like, how could anyone take this shit seriously?
Honestly. Basically. Maybe, well, the thing is, people did, apparently. People did take the book seriously, but maybe that's just the Fed posting saying that people, like a lot of people did.
Yeah.
I think the high mark for people who joined Pierce's organization was 2,000 people. That's like nobody.
I mean, that's how much this organization had, and they took over the country.
Yeah, isn't that convenient?
But with all the stipulations.
With all the weird fucking stupid shit that happened there.
Yeah.
People took Harry Potter and Lion King seriously. Yeah, and I'm sure when it was written, when people didn't have like broader knowledge, broader trivia knowledge about like military technology and like police methods and sort of numerical realities, and they read this book, it might actually seem plausible. But like anyone with any modicum of knowledge reading a book about just anything, about like how this would go, like a theoretical simulation of this civil war, they'd be like, "Wow, this is fucking retarded."
But I think this might have been for the youngsters, like the kids,
For the
because
kids,
yeah, I don't know, like it feels childish.
It is like a Japanese light novel.
It would make the kids go,
I think,
yo, this is so cool.
I think 13-year-old James Mason would have loved this book.
Yeah, like I feel like this could potentially inspire a lot of young kids. I don't know, because
that's like when you're
they
like
can
13,
overlook that shit,
or when you're like in that age group from like 8 to 13, you're like really into violence and shit, and you think like guns are like really fucking rad, and like blowing people's guts out. That's like fucking rad, brah. And like, well, we want to be like epic and edgy shit. Like the Cold Steel. Like this book is Cold Steel. The Hedgehog.
And it indoctrinates people into the instead of the Sonic fandom, it's the white nationalist fandom. Yeah, that's the right one.
Mortars, dude, thick. Yeah, I guess it's it's a white nationalist children's book.
Not really. It's like a fan fiction, more like. But
well, no, it's like young adult fiction. It's like if someone published this, if like you replace all the names, like I said, like just replace all the names of Kirito and Asuna and like goblins that are random shit, and you could publish this on fanfiction.net, and people would probably love it.
Yeah.
If you're like, whoa, look at this shit's like so fucking cool and edgy, bro. Whoa. Fucking Kirito's such a badass. He like gives his life for the cause.
Oh yeah, he bombs the Pentagon at the end.
Yeah, Dave's Mason.
Did we mention that?
Children's books. Yeah, he flies. Yeah, that was really retarded.
That was really dumb too.
He flies a crop duster of a nuke into the Pentagon somehow. He doesn't get shot down by anybody.
No one gives a shit.
Yeah, it's
James Mason should write children's books. Damn, I want to read Siege now.
Siege is basically a similar philosophy, but written not in a retarded way.
Yeah, that's what it's.
It's not. It's not saying to. Well, I mean, I guess it is actually kind of edgy in a similar way, because like Mason will hear about some like random murders of non-white people, and he'll be like, "Whoa, that's fucking based," and he'll do that like 10 times throughout the book.
Yeah. Oh, look at all these cool weapons, bro! It's
cool. All just fucking edgy nonsense.
Yeah, it really is. And it's like it's a kid's book.
It's a kid's book. Well, I mean, I guess. Yeah. Publishing this book did more harm to anyone who, and I think that's what's funny, is that all the people who like hold on to the Monotti aesthetic, or like this like super extreme of shit, they're the real useful idiots, along with the SJWs and shit, of preventing any sort of legitimization. But I guess that's kind of a meme, because optics cucking they'll always find a goalpost to move to prevent their real goals. But I guess either way, this isn't productive either, and probably more counterproductive than it.
I don't have political review. Yeah.
You're apolitical?
Kinda.
I guess you deserve the rope, Goy.
Yeah, I filed my race. Later, fellas. Yeah.
Yeah, like to imagine that nobody would invade the United States like until after the nukes were launched. Like, this is retarded.
It's over the top. It's stupid.
Like, even ANCAP would think this book's retarded. You'd be like, wow, they're not
But he
considering
wouldn't read it.
geopolitics. Well, you're right. He would never read the book. But theoretically, if a theoretical different ANCAP who could read books read this book, he would say it was retarded because the geopolitics did not take into account like EU4 theories, and that like somebody would have easily invaded the U.S. the second that California defected. Anyways, just dodge the nuke, dude. That's exactly what happened in the book, Dwarf.
That's what happened.
So
all of California.
So the Jewish
dodge
government
nukes.
thought that they just nuked our ethno state, but really we were just in the shelters. Ha! Dunked on. That's exactly what they say in the book. Yeah, all right. Well, it was a bit much.
Was it worth the read, Jeff?
Yeah.
Why the race realists look like idiots now?
I mean, yeah.
This is why.
I as a person who is race realist, I have to give credit to Shabbos Goy, and that like even the most skeptical Shabbos Goy will read this book and be like, "Wow, this is fucking retarded."
Nothing personnel nukes.
What's a good preview of the next book? All right, so this book is like edgelord. The next book is also edgelord, but black pilled instead. So instead of so it's just like existential black pilling by a horror fiction author, and he writes his like nonfiction nihilist rant. I haven't read much of it yet, so I need to get more into it. But it's just edgy and nihilist. It's a nihilism book that Dio recommended, so that's how you know it's fucking based. I guess.
I am hyped to see that one. When's that? Sunday?
Sunday.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that kind of concludes our review of the book. Now we'll just chat for a bit now.
All right.
Do I have a physical copy of what? Of
Of Turner Diaries?
No, I just downloaded it.
Yeah, PDF.
Yeah, PDF. Next book is Thomas Ogati's Conspiracy Against the Human Race, by the way, Sean. In 2 days, yeah. I'm going to be reading the majority of it in 2 days. In the next couple days, so. You have plenty of free time, give it a try. Anyways, sort of an unrelated note, but I've been kind of getting autistic about linguistics lately, if you've noticed.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do some research on sort of the philosophy of it, and it's kind of nebulous. But I did find a few things. So there's 2 theories. There's linguistic relativity and linguistic determinism. Linguistic determinism has kind of been disproven, but it's sort of the theory that like every action you take is simply determined by the language you have. But obviously this falls apart because then people couldn't invent new words, right? So like you couldn't invent a new word based off of observable reality if all language was from language, or if all action was from language. But I think, and then there's a weaker form of it called linguistic relativity, where basically a vast majority of your actions are influenced, which is it's just a weaker statement of the same hypothesis. And I'm kind of exploring that and reading stuff about it. They hacked his brain. Jeff got snow crashed. Wow, no. Let me in the link.
I couldn't follow any of the linguistic shit yesterday.
Sorry,
that was going
I need
fast.
to. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I need to articulate it more and read more. I was just really reasoning it out myself. I haven't read enough of the philosophy I need to. If anyone else wants to read up on it, let me get the name for you. It is the...
Yeah, that'd be a good read on here, actually.
Well, I haven't really found a good book that summarizes it, but there's a name for the... if I can remember. All right.
Sean Ruby wants a link to this Discord.
Oh, yeah, he wants to come on and shitpost, I guess. Well, are you on Discord, Sean? You need to be on Discord to get on. Just play Phantom Pain. You won't care about linguistics. I played Phantom Pain. I thought the whole language virus aspect was pretty interesting. Although it's just kind of a Kojima meme. They don't really
Too
go
bad
anywhere.
the game wasn't
Yeah, too bad the
finished.
game
Am
was
I
shit.
right?
Yeah.
Haha.
Just here to read some good fiction. All right. What was the name? All right. So the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. I'll put that in chat. It's sort of the original formulation of linguistic relativity that came around back in early 30s and then sort of developed into the 80s, and it's sort of been a thing. But I didn't find anything more contemporary. Really, I need to look harder. I was reading this book instead of looking for it, sating my autism. And tomorrow I'm gonna have to read fucking conspiracy instead of sating this autism. Be unsated for a while here, but. What I've been looking into is the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, and the sort of conception that your actions are in large part determined by your language structure. And there's a few articles written about how the self is sort of purely a linguistic construct. And I've been thinking more and more about that. I just cannot find like a real universal that disproves that. I mean, you can definitely have a self absent of language, like people without existing in a linguistic way, like if they're like blind and just examining through stimuli, they have different neurological states, and they probably have some sort of concept of self. But the concept of self that we all use is a bit of a higher, more advanced thing. Let me in the Discord. But what's your name on Discord, Sean? You need to send you on Twitter? Oh, okay, hold on. Let me grab that. And if you're going to talk over me, don't do that, though, Sean. It was fine yesterday, but let's be a bit more civil. Anyways, linguistic relativity states that sort of the majority of your actions are framed and decided by language. Like, so you can't really escape that frame. You can learn multiple languages, and it changes your cognition. And there have been multiple psychological studies about biopsychiatry lately that have noticed that there's large cognitive differences, like in neuron size and sort of in like brain lobe sizes and activity between people who speak different languages. So it actually changes, like physically, your cognitive sort of muscle, the language you speak, and it will change. In turn, it will change different cognitive behaviors. And so it's not only is it like a physical limitation, it's sort of in the abstract sense, it's a very real limited set. Devil on a book club stream? You didn't do that? You did a little bit. All right. Oh, hello. Is that you, Sean?
Oh.
Are you there? A little quiet.
You might need to adjust.
Yeah, you might need to adjust your microphone
sensitivity.
Or your mic, the sensitivity that picks you up.
Yeah, I don't think it's working.
Oh, you're quiet. Hold on. Let me pull you up. Turn you up. You need to go to your settings and the little.
How do I do that? I don't know how to do that.
Little fucking gear.
Yes, tech stream, baby.
Tech stream. I mean, that's classic.
Tech
It's been a
support
while. It's been a
stream.
while since we did tech stream, like on the week.
The little cog on the bottom
Little
left.
cog. If they haven't controlled that research for race and or ethnicity, it's useless. They have. Osbin. Like different languages do cause different neurological pathways to be sort of spent. And then there's the sort of the example is the Hopi language, which was actually a misunderstanding, but the Hopi was a Native American language that linguistics people were studying in like the 80s. And they found that the Hopi language lacked sort of the capability or sort of the words for like denoting time. Like they didn't have like time or tense in their language at all, or it had a very limited stance of it. And so they perceived time in a completely different way. And thus they thought in a completely different way about like their models of the world. So like you obviously have the capability in your mind to simulate things. Like you can simulate like an activity. And like when you're reading a book, obviously you imagine in your mind's eye sort of the actions like a movie playing out. Usually, like sometimes, like most people read like that. I think. Is that what you do, Laplace?
Yeah, I kind of do that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, like as you're reading it, like your mind is sort of constructing a space
Images. Yeah.
and imagining like people doing these actions. Um, and there's that, and so you can definitely do that, and like maybe extricate like a sense of self from just interacting with your environment, and that's fine. But that's not the same. It's not on the level of the self, which is your motivation structure that you actualize in language. So like the motivations of why you act, like why you do what you do every day, and like why you take different actions, like what are your meta goals, what are your short-term goals, that's mostly linguistics. You're choosing, you're usually doing it within like a social hierarchy, not the Jordan Peterson post, but you're trying to raise yourself in some sort of hierarchy, or you're trying to accomplish some sort of physical goal, or you're doing something of a goal, and this goal is an objective that is spelled out in language. And of course, it's like a real tenable thing like that you interact with in the world. But the 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 definitions of it are defined by your language, and thus the structures of your motivation and then how you define your self-worth are defined by your language, or the language you use. Like your self-worth is determined by how well you've achieved your goal, and that goal is sort of something you've extrapolated from linguistic structures. Anyways,
Sean, did you get the
you have
thing
to
to
get
work?
your stuff working, Sean?
Hello. Is it working?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Well, now I can't hear you.
I think the thing is, it's not. I'm not listening to y'all on this.
Huh?
I'm listening to y'all on YouTube, and it's not working.
So you can't hear the Discord? Like,
So it's a little bit laggy.
have you checked your audio panel? Can you like go to your audio panel and turn up Discord?
No, I can't hear Discord at all.
Well, I mean, you can go in your audio panel. You can go open that up, and there's like a bar. There should be a bar for Discord. You
I don't know
can
what that
maybe
means.
raise. Oh, all right. Well,
Maybe we should cut it off here.
yeah. I mean, if you just want to talk, we can just talk. But
yeah.
you should instead of troubleshooting on the stream all the time.
Yeah. Land of the Illustrious is really good. Go
Land of
watch
Illustrious.
that.
You mean Hoseki no Kuni?
Yeah.
It's a really good show, yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of it's probably the best 3D anime I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's CG makes me want to puke normally, especially when it comes up in like Zombieland Saga.
Yeah.
It fucking makes me want to puke. But this one actually looks
if
good.
you learn Yiddish, will you become a Jew? No, but you might have similar neurological pathways to Jewish people.
Well, I understand
of course,
what
you'll
the
have.
Jews mean.
You might. I don't know. But that's the thing. Like, what is understanding another person? I don't think that's really possible, right? Like everyone has their. You can reach agreements, but you can't really reach a full understanding because people have different definitions for almost everything. And so even if you like agree on something, like you might not even be agree because your definitions of what you just agreed upon are different. So you can definitely interact with and gain knowledge and bounce things off each other people, but I don't think you could really reach a true understanding of someone else. That seems like the equivalent of the cutest ugly girl. What did he mean?
I don't know. My brain shrunk after you started talking about the linguistic shit.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, I was just gonna make it 2 hours, and I'm just gonna rant about this for a little bit longer, I guess.
All right.
You don't have to stick around if you don't want.
All right. If you want to do that, I'm gonna head out.
All right. See ya. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for talking about it. It was a fun book to read.
Yeah, I think it was a fun read. All right.
It was just
Good
a little
night.
cringy.
Yeah.
See ya. All right, so now I'm alone. Oof. Oh, the girl seems like the equivalent of Keeps the Ugly Girl. Best 3D anime. You mean? Oh, okay. Like Hoseki no Kuni being the best 3D anime. Well, no, it's actually just really good. I don't think the 3D detracts from it at all. It really adds on to the style. You're not alone. Oh, I mean that's true. I have chat. We're gonna chat. Well, basically, I'll continue going on about linguistic relativity. So because you can't really, or you can try to actualize yourself outside of language, but it's not going to be on the same level of complexity or clarity. So you can have you can imagine, you can do that mind-eyes simulation thing and sort of imagine yourself achieving that goal or the steps to achieve that goal without uttering a single word. And so you can do that. But it's not going to have the same clarity, and people don't really... They write down their goals, or they define them as like a sentence that you can repeat, and then they measure themselves, their value of self, and like what their self is, as sort of languages, and as sort of they measure against the language. They measure against the sentences they write down that define themselves, and then their ability to attain the goal they set for themselves. And in this way, if self determines if language determines all of yourself, then that has a lot of implications. And it should really make sure that if you're trying to articulate or think about things, you really need to be clear on your definitions. Okay, did you fix it?
Yeah. My sensitivity down too low. Let me check it. But
we can hear you on stream. Can you hear me? In the proper time?
Perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah, at the proper time right now.
All right.
All right, cool.
So I've just been ranting about it. Did you want to just debate about this or what?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too educated on the linguistic aspect of it. I'd love to learn about it, and I definitely think we should find a book so we can study.
Yeah,
I
do definitely need to find a good book on it. But basically, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, and there's been different studies that support and go against it. So there's like a study that they took different cultures, and different languages have different words for color, right? And they'll have different amounts of words for color. So like English will have like 256 or more words for color, maybe probably a lot more than that. And then maybe like Finnish, and then maybe like Finnish will have like 20 words for color. Maybe that's like a difference.
And the Japanese or Chinese have like blue and green being the same one.
Well, yeah. And so they did a study where they took people's response rates. So they took people from different languages and said, showed them unknown colors, and then said, name this color. And so what they found is basically no matter what the language was, that people tended to favor the primaries, like red, blue, green, yellow, no matter what. And that if something was like in between those primaries, then they would have a much harder time describing it, even if their language had the word for it. That was just that was the interesting thing that sort of detracted from the linguistic relativity stance. But I don't think that
attracted to it or detracted
from it.
Detracted from it. Yeah.
But I think that was sort of putting the cart before the horse with the research a little bit, because you're sort of, if you're measuring the frequency of which people use, so basically what they did is they defined, okay, these are the primary color words for their culture, and then this is the frequency of which they responded with. Well, of course, people don't want to seem wrong, so they're going to aim for like the vaguest color they can. So if something's like vaguely blue, they're going to aim for like the broadest color they can, instead of like saying some like weird color name. So I think it's maybe like a testing issue.
Do you think animals do that too? Because if animals do that, then it wouldn't just be a human linguistic thing. It'd be at least a mammalian animals to do it.
If animals articulate color on the same axes, no, I don't. There's not been a study about that.
You'd wonder if they did. It would make sense if you pointed at something and you taught them like a lot of words, you wouldn't, I don't know, because maybe it'd just be the complexity versus simplicity, Occam's razor. Maybe they're just using Occam's razor.
Yeah, and I don't think that's like the perfect study to disprove linguistic relativity. I definitely think it says that sort of the visual cortex observations are sort of stronger than linguistic structures in sort of like a simple experiment like that. But I'm talking more about people's broad actualization of self, and then their motivations and actions, and then thus how that affects society. And I think that is very language based.
What? What you think? Like how
How people act is not based on, it's based on definitions within the language that they choose. It's a structure imposed purely out of language.
Oh, so okay? Well, I've actually got a thing. I was thinking of that last night.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear something? I think I have something that's a really good example.
Sure.
Okay, so your brain is a ton. Okay, so you can't make your language without language and without brain to interpret it.
Yeah.
And so your brain is everything that comes out of what your language is. It comes from your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you can think of more things than you can feel, than you can note, like linguistically. So you can feel emotions, and you're like, I don't know how to describe this feeling or whatever. So your brain
Yes.
is
Yeah.
definitely more complex than.
Yeah. There definitely people will be at a loss for words to describe their thoughts, and
Exactly.
people. But that doesn't mean they don't act in a linguistic manner when they act. Like when you
Sure,
act
but
in a meta sense,
would,
in a broad sense.
Then you'd have to think that words don't happen the same for everybody. So not everybody's turning into a. There's a lot of people, the linguistic trait right now is like transsexual. It's like all the kids are turning into trannies.
Yeah,
Everybody
that is valued.
So it's not
that is a linguistic goal that's valued.
Not the words don't have power. It's your interpretation to it, because not everybody gets interpreted.
Well, interpretations of words are just nested words. It's just words with definitions, which are words with words. So it's words. Words all the way down. And there's no interpretation. Is also linguistic. So and that's what I mean.
No.
It is. Like,
yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But I think it's biological first, and then
biological first. How so?
We try to do. I think we consciously try. Well, I mean, just like I said, like you can feel things and emotions, and you are attracted to things without being able to put words to it. You're like, oh, I like this food, or I like that. And sometimes it's not conscious; it's an unconscious attraction.
Sure.
So you have this attraction that's more of a biological aspect.
Yeah, but you
on a
can
more conscious level,
supersede
which is
that.
the linguistics. What?
But you can supersede that, and people do. Is the thing. That's kind of the point. So you have your biology, and then you're put in a state of used language as like a social thing, and you have your biological impulses. But you obviously you supersede. You put your biological impulses on a lower level. You don't like go around.
Superseded.
It is superseded.
How do you mean it supersedes? Well, how do you think it supersedes?
Because otherwise people couldn't people couldn't be like hermits and shit. They couldn't. Yes, it overrides it. Like people don't starve themselves because of biology. They do it because of they actualize their self in a linguistic structure, and they think that maybe like starving themselves and being like this meditative guru who sits around and like bakes in the sun and starves themselves is like achieving some goal that they've defined in language. It has nothing to do with biology.
But words don't change your IQ. Like no matter how much you
IQ
use,
doesn't matter. Like a 60 IQ person can make decisions as much as a 120 IQ person can.
Can make decisions, but they can't make the same valued decisions.
Doesn't matter.
You can't make the same. Yes, it
the
does value.
Quality of decision doesn't change what we're talking about here, which is universals.
If I say eat food and you're like, I don't want to eat food, but if instead I come up with a whole story about why eating food or becoming a white nationalist, if I say become a white nationalist, I will think about it. But if I come up with we'll use linguistics. good literature for it, you come up with good academic background for it. That's a lot more value of an idea than just saying,
But
do you
that's not
want
an output of
nationals?
IQ. That's choosing a set within. I
That's
mean,
the difference
sure,
between IQs. What's the difference between
but that's
IQs? It's
not
the difference
important
between
because retarded people have written books that have had more effect than smart
who?
people.
Who?
What do you think? What do you mean? Fucking Harry Potter and fucking like that's gonna outlive any of this
But
high
that's
IQ minded nonsense that we talk about on the show.
okay.
It's
Well,
gonna
there's
have
a
more of
difference.
a perpetual effect
It's
throughout time.
obviously high IQ if she's able to write a book. Like a 60 IQ person isn't going to be able to write
Well,
Harry
all right.
Potter.
Let's assume that just everyone. Let's just talk about people 100 IQ and above. They operate
Okay.
in a language space.
No, because we have to include 60 IQ because if you can't,
Well, they're controlled by the
unless you're
higher
giving a
IQ
good.
people. So it doesn't matter.
Okay, well, either way, I think it's fairly easy to say that there's a difference between 60 IQ and 120
Well,
IQ.
yes,
And
but not their
okay,
no. Well,
okay,
not their methodology of making decisions. Not really. Not on the
okay.
fundamental
Well,
level.
even if it's not the methodology, at least there's a difference between 60 IQ and 120 IQ.
You're just like obsessed with IQ, but it's not really that important.
I think the only reason I like it is because it's a good biological measure about how good we're going to do. That has nothing to do with linguistic aspects.
But no, it has everything to do with linguistic aspects.
But okay, not the name IQ, but the biological aspect of IQ.
Biological aspect of IQ, like we talked about this last time, and you're right. It is a thing that is measurable, but it's a test. It's a
Let's take away.
test, and then the reason of the specific questions we put in the test and the things that we measure that are good, that's a value judgment we make.
Okay, but take away the measurements, take away the goodness of it, being
What do you
able to
mean?
live longer. Okay, well, think about this. Okay, your IQ is really closely linked to how long you live. That's a recent study that came out like several months ago.
Well, no shit. Like you're
And
gonna
like,
be able to avoid danger or
no,
do
no, no,
long
no,
term
no.
planning
Like it's
easier. It's not a
no. Yeah, but it's actually linked to your genetic ability to live longer. Not just linked to you being able to live and have more
well, sure.
vaccines.
Well,
Because
people who have lower IQs probably are from like K selection societies.
have genetic just like damage. It's genetically it's just not genetically as good. It's not as genetically fit, and so that's a longevity thing. It has nothing to do with the cultural aspects. It has to do with the biological
That doesn't
ability
matter
to live
because
longer.
people still make decisions in a language space. They don't like the IQ might
But it
limit their
does.
ability to make certain types of decisions, but they're still making a decision in language.
I haven't even been able to set anything up yet. I'm just trying to say that there's a biological aspect to IQ, and 120 is better than 60,
Sure,
and that's
but
a
that doesn't mean
biological thing.
anything.
Okay, that's a biological thing. It does mean something because it's a biological thing that is more fundamental. Let's use the word fundamental. I think superseding is a little confusing because of the direction of it,
It's
but it's
more
more
fundamental,
fundamental.
but it's not because otherwise people
Linguistic, it
wouldn't
is.
engage in abstract thought.
People wouldn't engage in abstract
If
thought if they're 60 IQ, but they would engage in abstract thought if they're 120
But
IQ.
that all we're talking about is different groups of people. We're not talking about the concept
Well,
of
it's not
abstract thought. You're completely talking about something unrelated.
talking about the biological aspect. If I have to prove it's the biological aspect, then I have to
No,
prove
you're
that
all
it's
right.
relevant,
IQ
and it is relevant.
IQ is a measure is a standard is a linguistic value judgment that we measure statistically.
Even if we didn't measure it, even if humans never came around to be able to measuring it, it still
But
exists.
that's an epistemology problem. That's just saying like any theoretical thing defined in language exists in people if it's statistically measurable, which is true.
This isn't this isn't a if the tree falls in the
That is
forest,
a tree
then
falls in the
and
forest
nobody.
problem. That's
No,
exactly what
it's
you just
not.
said.
It's not at it. It's
Yes,
not
it
at all
is.
because IQ. It's okay. So
If
if
we came all
human
right,
if
I came up with
humans
the
didn't exist, so
RQ
does
test
physics
that
not
measured
exist?
retard quotient, and it proved statistically relevant and biologically passed among all humans. And it was measuring how much of a retard you were, and
Okay.
and then we took away the test, and then technically, yeah, that RQ value probably exists for all people, even if we couldn't see it. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't actually say anything.
You believe physics exists even if you don't believe, even if it doesn't. Because I'm getting to
No,
believe you're a postmodernist.
I'm being a postmodernist. Well, they're right. They're just empirically correct.
think a postmodernist, which believes physics doesn't exist.
Oh, physics exists.
Exist objectively.
But physics is not why we act. We act because we have free will and we have an abstract mind.
I can get to that later. But does physics
All right, wait. Come on. Do you think we have free will or not?
I can't get to that until I make my point. Does physics
Oh my God, you're
exist
so fucking long-winded. Say it.
Exist objectively?
Yes.
Okay, good. If physics exists objectively, okay, you can't be too postmodernist. Okay, so physics exists objectively. So what that means is if a tree falls in the forest, it does make a sound.
Yeah.
Okay? If humans aren't there to measure IQ, it still exists.
And so does RQ. So does retard quotient. What are you getting at?
Sure, that doesn't. My point is that biology is more fundamental. It's more foundational than linguistics.
But the civilization is built on biology in part, but it's not purely biology. Training dick has nothing to do with biology.
Linguistic ability is biological. It is. Without a brain, without a mouth, without ears, we couldn't linguistically develop anything.
All right. So here, let me throw you for a loop. If it's all biology, then we don't have free will.
Okay, so I'm going to say we don't have free will. I actually accept what you're going to say, what you said, and I'm going to say that, and there's also a study that says that.
But that doesn't matter because, all right, so there are a limited amount of neuron states in your physical brain. And that is true. So like you have a brain that it physically exists as an object. And there's a limited amount of neuron states, like theoretically speaking, that could exist in that brain. However, the invention of language is an infinite set. So the finite material object produced a thing that is infinite. And since it is truly infinite, it is unpredictable. Now people are predictable in linguistic senses because it's very social based, and like people don't start like I'm not going to stop mid sentence and start talking in different language and talking in tongues. I'm not going to do that. And so it's predictable in that sense, but it's not bound. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. And it's truly infinite. It permutates into infinity. And so there's nothing actually, at least in linguistic space, limiting free will. Ergo, without language, you wouldn't really have free will.
I agree. Okay, now let me say a few things. First, you're talking about the concept of language. You're not talking about human application of language. So human application of language is limited because the brain is limited in that same sense. But the actual concept of it is infinite. But we can't apply that. In fact, you could say almost anything is the concept of, the concept of justice is unlimited.
Well, that's because it's a language.
Can be perceived in millions.
You can permutate.
Let's take away the language.
No, it's not. That's the whole point. You could permutate. You can have infinite languages regressing within languages, regressing within languages, regressing within definitions.
Okay, sure,
and
but
it's not predictable.
Human application.
And if it's not predictable, it's not determined, and we have free will.
That's perfectly fine. I'll take that that you consider justice to be solely a linguistic thing, although I think it could be
biological. Yeah. Biology.
Well, I'd say animals do have a sense of justice. They do have a sense of justice. They give each other foods and stuff.
But you're still making a categorical value judgment that's based off of your opinion of the interpretation. It's not.
Oh my God! Well, I from what I grabbed from that, I think that can regress into anything. But I don't think I'm making one just because you already said physics is objective. Well, if physics is objective, then
you valuing IQ over RQ is a value judgment.
I'm not talking about IQ over RQ. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying like an animal will literally give food to older people inside there who are weaker or something like that. That's like a justice. That's a concept of justice that supersedes language.
Doesn't supersede language. We identify it anthropomorphically because we're mammals. Insects wouldn't identify with that. If they had advanced cognition, they probably wouldn't. Because they have a different concept thing. Like you're talking about mammalian. We're anthropomorphizing the actions of animals.
Another one. Let's do because these are. I'm not talking about man. I'm talking about like cheetahs and shit too. But let's do bugs. Bugs feed their children. They feed their children. Yeah.
Sometimes.
So, anyways, that's a sense of justice. That's a sense of justice, and so that goes into bugs too.
Well, that's your definition of
Wouldn't say
sense of justice. You've just chosen that.
I mean,
It's
it
not a
can, well, it's just
universal.
like
Do you know what a universal is?
like a concept,
A concept that
yeah,
transcends everything
like
and is
language.
true objectively.
Okay, sure,
But
yeah, okay.
what you've just said is not the universal. So don't like pretend it is.
This is universal.
It must
I
be
think it's a
true
thing that
no
you
matter who
can.
observes it when and where, which isn't the
I think
case.
okay. I think justice is pretty objectively defined. I don't think it's just a
All right,
subjective thing.
okay, whatever. It's just that's kind of ridiculous.
I don't think justice can be objectively defined.
Yes,
It's
there's no the true morality. There's no like
it'll.
biological morality.
I would say like there's an objective definition of justice. I wouldn't say I know exactly how to word it, but I think there's a subjective application of it. Just like there's this objective idea of language, just like there's a human or subjective application of language.
But
So
even
I
in
would
the
say that
subjective
justice,
application of language, we're not limited. So it's not the fact that we're not
actually
gonna
humans we
the
are.
fact that a single human can't actually iterate all of infinity doesn't mean that they can't choose from a set of infinity. And since they have the ability to choose from an infinite set, it's free will, no matter where, even if they can't
Can they?
physically do it.
But can we really? Because we're living inside a certain culture and stuff, and our
Yeah,
culture only gives us
I
so
could
much
invent a
input.
language. I could start writing books in it. I could,
That's a
I could
human.
do that.
That's only what humans can do in this time and era. I mean, you go inside 100 years and they'll be like, "Wow, that's like it's cringy," just like we think of the
Yeah,
'70s or whatever. That's
people will
cringy.
think it's cringy, but doesn't mean free will doesn't exist.
Okay, well, let me tell you my study. There's a 2008 study that says your brain actually knows what decisions before you even know it. It's a Nature article. Do you want to copy and stick it inside the text chat?
Well, before your language structure actualizes your decision, it is a neuron system firing. I agree, but it's still within an infinite set of decisions. Like it's irrelevant. The mechanism by which decisions are made is actually irrelevant.
Okay.
Because because there's any number of decisions can be made. Like you can keep adding letters and words to definitions and redefining, making new words and redefining. Like even within the 26 letter English alphabet, that is an infinite set with no limit.
Okay, but your brain, you're thinking of, you keep like thinking of the concept of it with the human application. The human application isn't infinite. It's not infinite. The
Yes, it is.
concept of it is infinite. Well, the human application isn't, because you're influenced by your
You're
society
influenced
and
by
your
your
past.
society environment, but you don't have to. You're not compelled.
You are.
No, you're not.
In
Otherwise,
the
people
end, you
wouldn't
are.
invent language. People have invented retarded languages just because they felt
It's
like
not
it.
just languages. See, you keep falling
People
on
have done all
languages.
sorts of stuff that goes against their biology just because they felt like it.
But they've only been able to do that and conceptualize it because of something that happened in the past that led them and opened them up to it. They
Something
wouldn't have
that
been able to do
happened
it.
in the past. Well, they're stimuli, but they're only able to supersede their biology to do it because they have convinced themselves that some language structure is more important than their biology. People don't KYS because their cells tell them to do it.
I don't really understand that thing, but I think I still think you keep falling on a
I think
language
you
conceptual
don't
thing.
you don't actually have any true universal mechanistic understanding that destroys free will and like supersedes biology.
I have one right here. I just showed you
That's
the
just
link.
one article. I'm saying if you can't explain it in a couple sentences,
Sure.
it's not a universal.
Okay, well then I can. Well, that's a really silly thing to say.
That's how universals work.
It doesn't. Most universals can't necessarily. Human language isn't that easy. You can't just sum everything up in like a.
And now you understand the point.
Not making any sense, dude. Anyways,
right.
What it says is on here is your brain knows up to 10 seconds before you realize it what it's going to do. Now that means your brain unconsciously decides what's going to happen based on your past, based on past decisions, based on your inputs, your sensing inputs. and it makes the decision up to 10 seconds before your conscious mind does.
Well, until
So
your
that means
conscious mind
there's something
realizes
happening.
it. But it's still the process of the same conscious decision. It's just the beforehand.
Your conscious mind is your free will, and if your conscious mind isn't,
No, you can preempt your unconscious mind. You can prep it. Then you might have to argue like, well, where does the first thought come from? But your next thought is determined by your last thought, and so then it comes down to what is the first thought determined by?
Exactly, your next thought is determined by your last thought always. Now take
then
that back.
Where did the first thought come from then?
That's a little.
Then that's why it's not universal. We're getting off.
Universal.
It's not. You couldn't explain it.
We don't know how.
You don't know how it works, so it's not. You can't say it's determined. That's the point. That's what determinism means.
You can't make a chicken or the egg argument.
That is, you can. That's the whole point. If you can't just explain it, it's not determined. You can't say 100% it's deterministic until you can.
Yes, 100%.
Until you can say that the first thought is not able to be chosen, you can't say it's not deterministic. That's a ridiculous
conception of time, because time, but in the zeroth dimension, there is no time.
What are you even talking about?
That's what before the Big Bang is. That's the singularity.
Zeroth dimension. It's still the third dimension. It's just the Big Bang in the third dimension.
No, there's no Big Bang. In the first, there's a singularity, and that's where if you raise any number to the zeroth power, it turns to 1. If you raise any number to the square, to the second power, it turns into a square. And what that is if you put dots by each other, it turns it into any number that's squared into a square. And any number that's cubed, you can arrange it with dots into a cube. Anyways, these are the singularities. It's pretty common knowledge. It's the zeroth dimension, and it's where everything is infinite into this infinite singularity. And there's no dimensions, there's no time inside there. So it's making up a chicken or the egg thing when part of
well, that's the point. Like that is a failing of human knowledge. Doesn't even involve time. And until you bridge that failing in human knowledge, you can't for sure say anything is determined besides physics.
Then you can't.
And you can't even say physics is determined, because once you get down, you start getting into chaos theory, quantum shit. Anyway,
then you can't say that nothing is determined is determined.
Yeah, but in the agnostic state is it's not determined or undetermined, and so you can't. So you saying with confidence that it's determined is a failing. It's a falsehood.
We wouldn't have gotten here if Einstein was agnostic about physics. Like, oh, it could be, it could not be. He was like, no, this is the most that we know.
Math's a language, bro. Whatever. I'm done. You're trying to find universals that aren't there. It really just plain definition. Universal. It's not.
It's basic. Physics is universal.
Physics isn't universal. It's a set of it's agreed upon convention. Physics is a convention that people have agreed upon, and it's changed a lot over time. And it used to be like malarkey nonsense, and then we had to prove it and change it. And I'm sure if 100 years from now, it'll look like malarkey nonsense. The physicists 100 years from now, as they get more understanding and keep unpeeling the onion.
But that's the human application of physics. And
that's the only thing that's relevant. I don't care. Like the Plato's forms are not accessible, so they're not relevant.
Plato's forms. I'm talking about the actual bit, like what physics really is, and that we're only chipping as piece. You're using language to take chips out of what real physics is. Real physics is real physics. It's universal.
It exists, and we have a cursory understanding of it.
Okay, sure. But as far as we know, it's what we do know. It helps us solve more bits.
You
can't
solve
there is
linguistic decisions. Like there's no math that solves that.
Hey, why did you go to linguistics decisions?
Because that's the whole source of free will. Language is the source of free will.
Are you just saying random shit?
No, language is the source of free will. Prove me wrong.
That's not what we're talking about.
That was what we were talking about.
No, I'm talking about universal. I've been trying to prove universal physics.
If physics being universal doesn't mean you've proven that neuron firings is determined.
Okay, I don't have to determine it because the Nature article determines that. I didn't have to determine that one. It's on there. It says before you even know it. And that's
but that doesn't mean that. You're saying that that's wrong. Like that doesn't mean
what do you,
saying because your subconscious says
How
something
helpful
10
is that?
seconds below doesn't automatically mean you can't make conscious decisions. That just means before you realize it, your brain is working. Like it's like doing a sub process.
Then what is free will if it doesn't mean your realization
Free
of what
will
you're
is
doing?
your preference set within the linguistic structure, which is infinite and unpredictable.
It's not consciousness.
It is consciousness.
Okay,
Or well, no, it's an output
if
of
something happens
consciousness, but
before your conscious,
it's language.
if something happens before your conscious self gets it, how is that free will?
It doesn't happen. It has a sub process that happens before the conscious thought is fully formed. That's all that happens. The neurons are en route. That mean it doesn't happen. It's not like a fully formed conscious thought. No.
I don't know how to debate that. They said inside here that that's not what it is, but I don't know how to.
Well, that's because
explain
you're
that.
taking the person who wrote the article is trying to make an abstract that says, "Oh, determinism is true," but all it says is that this
They're not making an
neurological
abstract.
process happens, and that like the EEG matches with the pre-subconscious aspect with the conscious decision. The EEG.
Well, then how do you prove it? Then how do you prove it that it is?
Because
That
I know
it's,
people can. Because I know I can make an infinite set of linguistic decisions. I know that is actually infinite.
I thought we already talked about this. That's the human application of it. Is
Human
limited.
Well, no, it doesn't matter if the amount of decisions you can make in your lifetime is finite, but the set you choose from is infinite, and that's the point. Choice from an infinite set. How is it not choice from an infinite set?
You aren't. Oh, you okay? So name something that you've never heard of or done or can't even conceptualize and do that. You can't. It's impossible. You're a human. You've only got your experiences and your memories to work with, and that's what you make another decision on. That's all you have to do. So you're not infinite. You're based off your past. You're based off your past thoughts. That past thought is based off its past thoughts and its experiences.
But no, you get to choose.
Infinite. Humans aren't. If humans were infinite, we wouldn't be in this body. We wouldn't be stuck to this certain space. We wouldn't. Our brains.
You've taken the determinism pill and you've turned yourself into a wind-up doll of meaninglessness.
It's not
determinism. And you've denied your ability to make decisions.
No, I just accept my limits. I'm a 3D
limits?
human being.
You're a 3D human being, and your mind has an abstract has a capability of any permutation of an infinite
our
set,
brains aren't
and you don't choose
smart.
it because you don't. Yeah, they are that smart.
They're not that smart. They can't conceptualize.
They are that smart. Everything. They can't conceptualize everything. Otherwise, it wouldn't be something that we could talk about.
Do you think there's better? So you don't think there's any brains better than our brains in the future? You don't think there's an evolution? You don't think AI?
There could be, but as of current, our brains are the best there are.
It's not the best, period. So we can't conceptualize everything that maybe a better brain can.
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. We still have our infinite language space, and we can make decisions in it. It doesn't matter. How does it?
It does because that's our limit. That's our limit.
Mean?
Our limit is our limit is not the better brain. That other brain, that conceptual brain that is better and can conceptualize things better than us, that's our limit. We can't reach past that. So our brain isn't
that's the physical limit, but it's not relevant to our living.
Something more infinite, unless you say that brain can conceptualize things that's more infinite.
More infinite. There's no more infinite. It's infinite mathematically. Exactly. There's not anything more infinite.
So you said that there's a brain that can be conceptually better, that our brains aren't the best, that there can be conceptually better brains. So
that's just a hierarchy. It doesn't change the nature of it. To say that it's something better doesn't change the fact that we still have free will.
The human application of linguistics or free will is limited to our brains and our bodies. The concept of free will or linguistics or justice, infinite. It's certainly infinite, but we can't scratch even a percentage of it because our brains just aren't that good.
We can't.
Now there's better brains.
We do scratch a percentage of it. It's very small, but we do. That's what we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't make language decisions. Otherwise, everybody wouldn't use words and agree on definitions.
That's just an expression that we can barely scratch the surface. But saying we can barely scratch the surface means we don't have the ability to make it infinite. We can only scratch the surface.
It's already infinite. That's the thing. It's like
I don't understand what's so hard about this.
No, you don't understand how it doesn't matter if we can only explore a finite set, because the set is infinite, and there's all right. So every human life has a time limit, and within that time limit, you can only explore a subset of thoughts. But the selection is infinite. It is true infinity. There is
Not
no
all
limitation.
selection.
There is no
But no,
limitation
there's
on the permutation of thoughts that you can have within any linguistic structure.
except for the fact that it can only be a scratch of the surface at a time, right?
It can only, what do you mean? I mean that we're
This is
constrained by time, but that doesn't mean we don't have free will. We're constrained by time.
Let's
Sure,
take away
we're
free will
mortal
right now.
beings constrained by time, but we still
We can
can
take away
make
free
this.
will,
We can
right?
still pick and choose from the infinite set. We still get
We
our
can only,
choice.
but we're still limited to a scratch on the surface at a time.
And that's fine, but it's still free will. I could still peruse the infinite set. I can go like invent a
How
different
can it be?
language, make a recursive definition within that language, and then a language explaining that recursive definition. And I could just spend all my days doing that if I felt like it. If I felt like extrapolating the concept of free will.
I mean, I think we're just kind of going in circles. I feel like I think we've already established that there's a possibility of a brain that can conceptualize more than our brains can. So therefore, we can't just pick anything inside that space of free will, or let's just take away free will and say we can't just pick anything in linguistics and it can't just be anything. It can only be a certain things or deal with.
No, it doesn't mean anything at all, because it's still an infinite set, and you just cannot statistically predict an infinite set.
I'll say this, but I don't think it's a really.
Are you saying that math's wrong?
I think
you're saying
math
that
is
infinity is an infinity. That's yeah. Are you? But now you're just saying what I was saying. Are you saying that statistics can't predict infinity? Are you saying theoretically infinity can be predicted? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying it's pretty good, but there's better, and we can only learn and develop so much. We can't get a lot better. We can get some bit better, but we're gonna have to change our brain. We're gonna have to get an AI brain or something like that, or evolve a new brain in order to be able to conceptualize things that we can't even think of. Now think of it this way: when your eyes, we can only see a little bit of the color spectrum. We can't see all of the color spectrum.
We're animals. But that doesn't mean that
okay,
the
so
abstract thought is not free.
Okay, sure. I've said the abstract concept of the abstract I don't want to say free will. The abstract concept of linguistics is infinite, but the human application has to be limited by everything that you've
said. We're limited by our body and our time, but the actual decision making, which is the important thing for free will is not
can't
limited.
Exist. Free will.
What do you mean it can't exist?
We can't have humans. Okay, let me say this: the human application of free will can't exist.
What do you mean? How not? We're still choosing from an infinite set that's not predictable, that's not determined.
We're not choosing from an infinite set.
We're
only choosing from we're choosing from a body that has an infinite set, but we're only able to get some of it.
Well, that's because of time, but that doesn't change the set that we're choosing from or our ability to choose.
Okay. It's not even just time, though. It's our ability.
What do you mean? The only thing that is restricting our ability to conceptualize is time.
Well, it's not just time; it's ability.
Yeah,
you think a retard can spend 200 years? A 60 IQ retard can spend 200 years and know more.
A 60 IQ retard with infinity would reach all the knowledge of the universe.
That's. I mean, sure,
that's
but
the point. That's why it's infinity. And when linguistics is infinity, you're not constrained. And when they motivate your actions, you have free will.
Let me take that back, because I don't think that's true. Because I don't think if a person who has our color spectrum eyes lives 2 million years or infinite years is going to be able to see everything. I don't think that's true.
We're in reality, child, but you have free will, whether you like it or not. I'm sorry, you do.
I don't think we have free will.
We're not gonna agree on this point. Whatever. You've been utterly unconvincing. We totally went away from the.
I thought I made a good convincing point.
I guess. Maybe.
Dude, because
We can ask chat. Who won? The epic rap battles of shit. We talked about the Turner Diaries today, and now we've like totally derailed. But I'm sure people will just naturally tune out once they've gotten bored, and they have. And people hopefully watching the VOD will also tune out after the Turner Diaries if they got bored. All lost.
That's all.
Do you believe in the immateriality of the mind? What's the argument? The argument is that that the finite mind produces an infinite set, and you can make decisions within that infinite set. It's very simple.
And I don't think it can create an infinite set, because I don't think our brains are really
But
that
it's mathematically
complex
infinite. How is it not? How is language not infinite?
enough. I think the concept of language is infinite, but I think the human application of language is finite.
What do you mean? We can conceive of humans an infinite. If humans were given enough time, enough generations to live, we could live out We could live out all the permutations of linguistic thought.
Okay, I've got an example. Do you think an ape of years can because apes can conceptualize language. Do you think an ape, given even an infinite years, because no, yeah, I'd have to say this. Do you think an ape given infinite years is able to conceptualize all linguistic conceptions?
Maybe I'm not a biology major who studied ape physiology, but maybe it's possible considering Coco.
So the fact that you could say maybe, fact that you could say maybe lets you see a hierarchy in thought, which means you think humans are more capable of conceptualizing things.
All right, but just because there's a theoretical higher being that could predict our actions doesn't mean we know for sure it exists. It's like a God argument.
No, I think
saying a better brain could determine that's what you're saying, right? Like we're determined because there could be a better brain. There's a better brain that could predict our actions, right?
It must make the set bigger, then shouldn't it? If it's possible, and you said it's possible.
It must make the set bigger. It doesn't necessarily. Yes. We don't know. The set could exist as we describe right now. Like that could just be true. So it doesn't actually. Our understanding of physics could actually just be on point. Like our understanding of math could be reflective of the universe.
If you thought that, then there wouldn't be any more. I mean, we would have known that, but that's not true. It's simply not true. I mean, Einstein, completely flipped the books whenever they were like, there's more, and we don't know what dark matter is. We don't know what happens outside the universe.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, is that, but within that possibility of don't know, there's also the possibility of that was true. There's even the possibility that the old physics that we threw out was true. Like, we just don't know.
I don't think so.
Like, that's the problem. That's the problem with epistemology. We can't know anything.
No, you can know, because...
No, you can't. You can only know approximations.
Physics doesn't deal with quantum mechanics, and it doesn't deal with general relativity. And general relativity lets us do GPS. Newtonian physics does not let us do GPS. So by definition, the set is enlarged relativity and quantum physics.
Yeah.
Okay, so think about it. You can't... Things like, if we go on towards infinity, well, that must mean that you think there's something more complex.
Well, no, I just think
that must make the set bigger. That must make the set bigger. There's
a theoretical thing beyond. There's a theoretical infinity plus one, but we don't know for sure, so it's not really all that relevant. It's like saying, it's like the fucking teapot atheist argument. It's not really relevant.
Don't say how it's not relevant.
It doesn't change the nature of what we currently know, and until it does, I'd rather not bother including it.
Well, then, okay. Well, if we're talking about the infinite set, then we have to include it. We have to include the possibility, because the possibility just exists. It has to exist.
You exist.
Because you said it's infinite. You said it's an infinite set. So if it's an infinite set, you have to. So language. You were bringing up physics, our concept, our knowledge, or actual physics.
Infinite is a math concept that we have figured out.
Right. So if you think it's an infinite set, then you must think that it's you're taking into account that there's going to be higher things, that there's going to be activities to Newtonian physics. You're taking
Infinities
into
plus
that.
one. What are you saying? Are you saying that we'll have math that will make infinity not act like it does?
I don't know how to say this anymore.
Is there going to be theoretical math that makes language determinable? Is that what you're saying?
It's not. I'm not saying that.
Well, that's the point. Like, what I'm asking you to do is describe your theoretical system in which language is determined.
Said that the concept is infinite, but we're talking about the concept right now. We're not talking about the human application of it.
But the human application is the same. You're still choosing from that set. Dude.
No, because I'm trying to build up that if it's an infinite, then human application is by definition limited.
Well, yes. I agree it's limited by time and your body, but you still have free will.
And your ability.
Yeah, like I agree. Like people's biology determines like what set of neurons they could have, but still within the linguistic space, they're still making free will decisions.
That's okay. We can.
You could disagree, but you've been fairly unconvincing.
I think you've kind of just you accepted like almost everything to it except for the free will bit. But I think the free will bit really said like you can't if you don't have the ability to conceptualize something very, very complex. Then it's not something. You don't have free will. You don't have literal free will.
No, it's true. I mean, you have free. If as long as the set you're choosing from is infinite and your choice isn't bounded, it's not determined unless you have free will. That like you might say that's not true free will, but it's good enough.
All right. Well,
as long as there's no bounds on your decisions.
I definitely think there's more to put through there, but as long as you say there's a free will for humans that is different from a free will from a more complex creature.
Free will from
totally willing.
Well, all that is information.
Okay,
that's not even all that important.
It is important because that's the whole thing.
Because when you really that's the thing. Like if you get down to the universal, the more complex being is simply making a decision in a linguistic set with more information. That's all he's doing.
I literally have been spending the past hour trying to convince you of that. I've literally spent the whole past hour trying to convince you.
But all I've been trying to convince you is that is the same, and it's not like the being smarter doesn't change anything. It's still the same mechanism.
You just said it's not the same.
No, it's the same mechanism of choosing from an infinite linguistic set. No matter how complex the being, they're still choosing in a methodology somewhat similar. They're still using categorical theory to order their thoughts.
Different argument. We're not talking about the mechanisms by which they think of language.
The mechanisms by which they think of language is thus the mechanisms of how they make decisions and have free will. How is that not relevant?
Human, because you'd have to get into the spiritual aspects, and then you'd have to get into the biological aspects of the brain. What the spirit? Because you don't know how an animal or a human makes a decision to will opens. You don't understand because it's not just what you take in; it's what you choose and feel. So you have to have a spiritual aspect to what free will is.
That just sounds like hormones.
Either way, we'll call it what you want. A mythical or a
chemical
personality, a personality decision, a cultural decision. But I don't want to talk about the mechanism by which they do it. I just want to say that human application of free will is not infinite. It is limited by what the humans can actually conceptualize. But the concept of free will is infinite.
All right,
but
you talk too much, Sean. We got to end this. Thanks for coming on. We talked about Turner Diaries earlier, and then we had an autistic debate about linguistics and free will. And here you kind of proved my point because we were arguing about yes, you did, because we were arguing about the semantics of unbounded free will and human free will. So we were arguing about a semantical linguistic difference. You understand?
I said that humans weren't
and thus your actions were determined by your linguistic structure. All right, see ya.